Right Honorable Speaker, Your Excellency the Vice President, Your Ladyship the Chief Justice, Honorable Members of the Judiciary, Honorable Members of Parliament, distinguished leaders of our security forces, Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, our revered traditional rulers, religious leaders, invited guests, fellow Ghanaians, I wish you a very good morning. Mr. Speaker, over the years, I've often spoken about and made reference to the tremendous power that exists within every single Ghanaian. The power to create things and influence the course of events, the power to shape the future of this great nation of ours. We are Ghana's greatest wealth, the individual skills, talents, passions, personalities, ideas, and ingenuity we bring can make a world of difference to our country. When we lose someone, especially someone who is in the prime of his or her life, we mourn much more than what the person was to us or meant to us. We also mourn the possibility of what the person might have been or could have accomplished. Mr. Speaker, every year since the good people of Ghana elected me to serve as President, I have come to this august house in fulfillment of Article 67 of the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana to address the state of our nation. In many ways, because I began as a member of Parliament, this house is my political home, and its honorable members are my brothers and sisters. We stood on different sides and held our positions. We argued points and we pointed out what we felt was the error in the other side's thinking. But as I recall, at the end of the day, we were more than worthy opponents. We recognized ourselves as a family, as a microcosm of the larger Ghanaian family. Mr. Speaker, it pains me today to see the vacant seat of our brother, my friend, Honorable J.B. Danquah Edu, MP for Ebuakwa North. Get me those extra papers I gave you, the first ones. From Stan. Yeah, there are some papers I gave you with some writings on it. No, they are not part of the speech. Okay, all right. Okay. Okay, there. J.B. Danquah Edu, MP for Ebuakwa North. J.B., as we popularly called him, was aged 50 years when he was brutally murdered. J.B. was a gentleman who walked away from every conversation with a smile. He genuinely loved Ghana, and that devotion shone through in everything that he did, especially in his constituency where he was quite popular and very well regarded. Mr. Speaker, J.B.'s absence in this House and in his constituency is both seen and felt. We've lost a member of our family, and Ghana has lost a true son who would no doubt have gone on to contribute greatly to the betterment of our nation. I would like, therefore, on behalf of the good people of Ghana and all those present today, to offer our deepest condolences to Mr. Frank Edu and Mr. George Chumberima Edu, brothers of Honorable J.B. Danquah, who I believe are here in Parliament today. I'd also like to respectfully request that we take a full minute of silence to honor him and our compatriots who passed away during last week's Metro mass transit bus accident. May his soul and the soul of the faithfully departed rest in perfect peace. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, my government is committed to putting people first. I've said that again and again for the past several years. But what does that really mean? How is that declaration affecting the lives of people in Bawku, Aflao, or say Axim? We politicians are known for talking plenty. Yet, the irony of such a stereotype is that in actual fact, words often fail us. They fail to convey the numerous ways in which what we are doing is directly impacting the lives of those we are serving. And that is because we say things in ways that sometimes take the very subjects of our concerns and turn them into objects or place them in demographics or speak of them as statistics. We detail projects and proposals, we cite budgets and data, figures, and bottom lines that can feel very far removed from the flesh and blood realities of the people whose lives we seek to improve. Mr. Speaker, in this address on the state of the nation, I would like to show the direct line between policy and people. I would like to show how the seeds we have been planting for the last 3 years have taken root and grown. Some, Mr. Speaker, some have now become trees, bearing fruits that are ripe for the picking. And many more are fast approaching maturity, preparing to display their gifts. Mr. Speaker, I would like to show how we are changing lives. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to show how we are changing lives, and what a better place to start than with education, which has proven to be the single most effective way not only to change a single life, but all the other lives that surround it. And education can break the cycle of poverty and abuse. Education is the key that can unlock for children wells into which their parents could not enter, wells they never even knew existed. During this term, my first term as president, we have consciously developed strategies Mr. Speaker, during this term, my first term as president, we have consciously developed strategies and made interventions to raise the quality of education by emphasizing its relevance, improving access, and working to eliminate gender discrimination and inequality. We've also worked to better train and equip our teachers. Mr. Speaker, Ghana has been commended by the United Nations for meeting the targets of the Millennium Development Goals of achieving universal primary education with gender parity. Despite that achievement, there are still a significant number of school-age children that are not enrolled in school. These children are now being targeted under the compulsory basic education program. In the last year, a total of 54,800 of them in 4 regions of the nation have been enrolled into schools. These are 54,800 children who would not have otherwise received an education. These are 54,800 children whose lives will now have much different outcomes as a result of this program. Mr. Speaker, other important social interventions that are being implemented in the education sector include the issuance of free supplies such as uniforms, sandals, and textbooks. Mr. Speaker, in June 2015, I launched the National Free Sandals Program, which saw the start of the distribution of 10,000 Kumasi shoe factory made in Ghana, 10,000 Kumasi Shoe Factory made in Ghana leather sandals to school children in need across the nation. A number of students who would have struggled without the basic necessities with which to attend schools, students like Mohammed Awabu of Mogla JHS in the Sablugu district in the northern region, who received free sandals, or David Aminayire of Nayegna JHS Kasina Nankana Municipal Upper East Region, who received free school uniform, free exercise, and free textbooks. And I believe they are in the gallery at my invitation. Mr. Speaker, last year, I insisted that the Ministry of Education should ensure that all textbooks and exercise books to be supplied to our schools are printed here in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, this is on course. And in fact, I would like to acknowledge the statement of gratitude received from the Ghana Printers and Paper Converters Association, led by Mr. James Apia Bekun. I would especially like to take note of their indication that this intervention will help create 1,400 new direct jobs. Better still, that's 1,400 new direct jobs in Ghanaian businesses. Mr. Speaker, in our determination to improve quality of education, we've also introduced two new programs, the Teacher Professional Development and the Provision of Teaching and Learning Materials programs. Mr. Speaker, the Teacher Professional Development Initiative aims to attain a target of 95% trained teachers at the basic level by 2020, as set out in the Education Strategic Plan. The Provision of Teaching and Learning Materials program has also seen the distribution of teaching and learning materials to 10,924 basic schools. In addition, 30,000 trained teachers were trained in ICT under the Basic School Computerization Program, bringing the total number of teachers trained under the program to 50,000. Mr. Speaker, secondary education was plagued with a number of challenges, notably a lack of access, leading to a poor transition rate from JHS to SHS. We are vigorously confronting these challenges under our program to establish 200 senior high schools. Mr. Speaker, I can report that 123 are currently being implemented and are at different stages of construction. I wish to place this in a broader perspective. Mr. Speaker, the first secondary school was established in Ghana 140 years ago in 1876. Between that date and 2012, the number of public secondary schools established was 526. The 123 schools that are being implemented right now will create almost 200,000 new places in the system, thereby making the Community Day School intervention the biggest ever expansion program in the entire history of secondary education in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, it is because of this program that 16-year-old Apim Shulamite is now the Assistant School Prefect of the Atta Mills Community Day School in Otuam. Mr. Speaker, the young lady you see up there, Apim, who is in the gallery, who once dreamt of becoming a nurse, Mr. Speaker, who once dreamt of becoming a nurse, had to stay home for 1 year due to lack of access to secondary school. Mr. Speaker, Apim's parents are settlers from Somanya, but live in the Ekumfi area. Her father is a taxi driver, and her mother sells second-hand clothing. Mr. Speaker, during the year that Apim stayed at home, she sold wache and worked in a chop bar. Because of the Community Day School's intervention, students like Apim are able to go from limited prospects to the fulfillment of their personal dreams that ultimately benefits the entire nation. Mr. Speaker, additionally, under the Secondary Education Improvement Program, SAPE, 10,400 students benefited from scholarship. 60% of the beneficiaries are young women like Gertrude Eshia Yeboah, who I believe is also in the gallery here today. She is currently a student at the St. Augustine's SHS in Bogoso in the Western region. Mr. Speaker, enrollment in tertiary institutions increased by 6.3% for universities and 8.9% for polytechnics. In November of last year, I inaugurated the main campus of the University for Health and Allied Sciences, UHAS, at Ho, which in just 3 years, which in just 3 years of its establishment has achieved many remarkable success stories. So far, more than 2,300 students have been enrolled into this institution. Associated with the enrollment is also the creation of 816 direct jobs for teaching and non-teaching staff of UHAS. But, Mr. Speaker, those are just numbers. Let me tell you about one of those 2,300 students, Jijo Kwamwa from Fodomehelu. She lost her mom when she was only 10 years old. When she counted herself along with her other 13 siblings, Mr. Speaker, when she counted herself along with her 13 siblings, those being her father's children, there didn't seem to be any hope that she would stand out. Thankfully, an uncle of hers took her in and took care of her through JHS and SHS. She was admitted to Aburi Girls and completed her studies there in 2014, only to find that despite being highly qualified, she could not attend medical school due to inadequate access. Now, with the opening of the University for Health and Allied Sciences, Jijo is indeed standing out. This access has made a tremendous difference in her life. Mr. Speaker, it has made a tremendous difference in her life. She is studying medicine in the University of Health and Allied Sciences. And, Mr. Speaker, it will make a difference in the life of the patients that Jijo will treat in future when she fully qualifies as a doctor. Mr. Speaker, progress has been made at the University of Energy and Natural Resources, which has so far admitted 2,685 students and created 315 teaching and non-teaching jobs. The bill for the establishment of the University of Environment and Sustainable Development in the Eastern Region has been passed by this August House. I have appointed an implementation team to assist the Ministry of Education in realizing this vision in the shortest possible time. In fulfillment of our pledge to ensure that each region in Ghana has at least one public university, we are on course to begin construction this year at Donkokrom and in the Afram Plains and Somanya, all in the eastern region. Mr. Speaker, in furtherance of our policy to convert the polytechnics into technical universities, 6 of them have met the 16-point criteria and have been recommended for immediate conversion in this academic year. They are Kumasi, Accra, Koforidua, Ho, Sunyani, and Takrady. The remaining 4 polytechnics will be assisted by a special arrangement to support them with infrastructure, equipment, and the strengthening of their faculty to enable them meet the conversion criteria in the shortest possible time. Mr. Speaker, the abolition of the quota system for enrollment in colleges of education has increased admissions by 63%. This has created access for many students who otherwise would not have had the opportunity. To assist teacher trainees and finance their education following the cancellation of the teacher trainee allowances, I've asked the Ministry of Education to direct the Student Loans Trust to register trainees on their campuses and disburse student loans to them. This new system allows us to reinvest in the education of the next generation of teachers and students, and is a more sustainable way to support teacher trainees. To fulfill the policy of providing colleges of education in underserved areas and to expand access to teacher training, government is absorbing into the public stream the following colleges: the St. Ambrose College of Education in Doma, the Al-Farak College of Education in Wenchi. This will become our first ever Islamic College of Education. Mr. Speaker, the Gambaga College of Education in the East Mamprusi District, the St. Vincent College of Education in Yendi Municipality, the Bia Lamplighter College of Education in the Bia District. 2 other private colleges will be absorbed in the Brongahafo region and Ashanti region to fulfill the initiative of providing colleges of education in underserved areas. In addition, work will begin on 3 new colleges in the Greater Accra, Central, and Northern regions. Mr. Speaker, last year we worked to improve the skills of in-service teachers. In 2016, we are going one step further by enhancing the education of pre-service teachers by giving them skills and tools they need to excel in the classroom and prepare our children for a bright and prosperous future. We are doing this through transforming the Teacher Education and Learning Program, which aims to impact 35,000 teachers over the next 4 years. Central to this achievement are 38 colleges of education. Mr. Speaker, at independence, our life expectancy was a little over 40 years. Today, life expectancy has increased by more than 14 years. This increase is due to advances in medicine, improvements in health infrastructure, and the increased number of health personnel. Not only are we living longer in our adult years, more infants are living to see those years. According to the Ghana Demographic and Health Survey, there has been a drastic decrease in the rates of infant mortality and under-5 mortality. Over the last decade, under-5 mortality decreased from 111 to 60 per 1,000 live births. Infant mortality dropped by almost 30% from 64 to 41 per 1,000 live births over the same period. Mr. Speaker, the mothers of these children are also surviving during pregnancy and after childbirth because antenatal and intrapartum and postnatal care has improved. Mr. Speaker, we are poised to invest heavily in the coming years in education and preventive health care for the treatment of chronic, non-communicable diseases due to lifestyle choices. Diseases such as hypertension, diabetes, high blood pressure, cholesterol, and obesity. The investment in preventive health is even more prudent as our nutritional habits continue to change. Mr. Speaker, the double burden of communicable and non-communicable diseases raises an even more fundamental question about sustainable healthcare financing. This is precisely why I have constituted a technical committee to make proposals that will lead to a fundamental redesign of the National Health Insurance Scheme. Mr. Speaker, 2015 saw an active NHIS membership of 11.2 million people. That is 41% of our population. Mr. Speaker, outpatient utilization of the National Health Insurance Scheme rose to 29.6 million in 2014 from 597,000 in 2005. For us, this undeniable pattern of increased utilization of healthcare insurance bears ample testimony to the confidence that our people continue to have both in the scheme and in the health system. It is also the reason why questions about the adequacy of the funding mechanism cannot be ignored. To this end, government expects the team of technical experts I have set up to propose for government's consideration fundamental reforms that will touch on areas such as equity, premiums, expansion of the revenue base, claims fraud, benefit packages, and the procurement of medications. Mr. Speaker, I want to make medication affordable for all Ghanaians. And that is why I want our local pharmaceutical companies to produce as many medications as possible right here in Ghana. To that end, we disbursed more than 50 million Ghana cedis to assist pharmaceutical companies in Ghana to be able to do so. We also removed VAT on all their raw materials. Mr. Speaker, recently the Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association of Ghana paid a courtesy call on me in my office and commended government for the help that we are giving them in expanding their businesses. Mr. Speaker, through this, we hope to achieve an uninterrupted supply of antiretroviral drugs for HIV and AIDS patients. There are also innumerable other associated benefits to this strategy, not the least of which is the creation of more jobs in the pharmaceutical companies in Ghana. And today, we have here in the gallery Mr. Samuel Amo Tobin, the Chief Executive Officer of the Tobinco Group, which was one of the companies that benefited from government support to the pharmaceutical industry. Other companies like NS Chemists and several of them also benefited. The funds were disbursed by the Export Development and Agricultural Investment Fund. With the support received, these pharmaceutical companies have been able to increase their production portfolio substantially. The companies produce analgesics, antibiotics, antiretrovirals, and various syrups for the local market. And Tobinco is exporting to Niger, Gambia, Sierra Leone, and Liberia. Mr. Speaker, one cannot speak of health without speaking of physical exercise. There is a need to return physical education or sports onto our school curriculum. The current situation where PE and sports have been de-emphasized in the academic curriculum is in the long run extremely costly. It directly impacts the health outcomes of students in the area of obesity and such illnesses that arise from a sedentary life. It is plain to see that the benefits far outweigh the cost. And I've asked the Ministers of Education and Health and Sports to initiate stakeholder discussion to ensure the adequate reintegration of sports back into the school curriculum. Mr. Speaker, in October of last year, 12 people in the West Gonja district in Northern region were affected by yellow fever. In December of last year, there was an outbreak of pneumococcal meningitis that started in the Brong-Ahafo region. These incidents remind us that public health emergencies are not to be taken lightly. They are an ever-present possibility. Ghana has been commended numerous times by the international community for being on the front line during the fight against Ebola. As others were standing still or worse, stepping back because of fear, we stepped forward and took control of the situation, helping to mobilize efforts that ultimately helped contain the virus. Mr. Speaker, The World Health Organization has declared the Zika virus a public health emergency of global concern. Numerous cases of the virus have been reported in Brazil, the United States, and other countries in the Americas, as well as in a few parts of Europe and Africa. Our Ministry of Health, acting through its agencies, has started coordinating education programs on the prevention of the Zika virus. The ministry is also keeping health facilities on the alert with timely messages on transmission patterns, associated signs and symptoms, methods of prevention, and emergency preparedness planning. I assure the people of Ghana that government is putting itself in preparedness and equipping itself to deal with this and any other public health issue that might arise. Mr. Speaker, our healthcare system has improved tremendously. We continue to invest. About this one too, should I show you? It is evident for everybody to see. Mr. Speaker, our healthcare system has improved tremendously. We continue to invest heavily in the sector to ensure an even better system, because as a social democratic government, we believe that a healthy people As a social democratic government, we believe that a healthy people make a wealthy nation. It is for this core reason that over the past few years, $2 billion in health infrastructure, equipment, and human resources. We project the completion of the program by the completion of the program to add more than 6,000 new hospital beds to Ghana's existing stock by the end of 2018. Mr. Speaker, presently, there are 3 teaching hospitals, 3 institutional hospitals, 4 regional hospitals, 14 district hospitals, dozens of polyclinics and health centers, as well as thousands of CHIPS compounds. And many at various stages of completion. Mr. Speaker, you want a list, you have it. Construction of the University Hospital at Legon, upgrading and rehabilitation of the Ridge Hospital, expansion of the second phase of the Tamale Teaching Hospital, expansion of the police hospital in Accra, are all progressing steadily. Mr. Speaker, you want a list, you have it. The Wa Regional Hospital, which commenced in October 2012, is presently 70% complete. It is part of the 8 hospitals project that we are undertaking. Mr. Speaker, work on the following hospitals are also progressing. You are having your list. The 250-bed regional hospital in Kumau, the 60-bed district hospital in Salaga, the 60-bed district hospital in Tepa, the 60-bed district hospital in Soko, the 60-bed district hospital in Konongo Dumase, and the 100-bed municipal hospital near Atomic in Accra. Mr. Speaker, that's not all. I can give you more. Mr. Speaker, rehabilitation of the 295-bed Bolgatanga Hospital is progressing satisfactorily. Mr. Speaker, work on the new modern emergency department for Kolebu Teaching Hospital is 90% complete. Mr. Speaker, a 12-bed intensive care unit for the Department of Surgery has been refurbished and equipped. Mr. Speaker, 6 district hospitals with integrated IT systems are currently being designed and constructed and equipped at an estimated cost of $175 million. The beneficiary communities will be Sekondi Takoradi, Abetifi District, Garu District, Kumawu District, Fomina District, and Dodowa. Mr. Speaker, I have requested that the Minister for Health should convert the regional hospital, the Volta Regional Hospital, into a modern teaching hospital befitting of the status of a university hospital for the use of the University of Health and Allied Sciences in the Volta region. Mr. Speaker, the continuation of the $264 million National Medical Equipment Replacement Program, which has so far provided diagnostic and treatment equipment to over 150 hospitals nationwide, will ensure adequate provision for the much-needed retooling of the regional hospital in the Volta region. Mr. Speaker, we're training more healthcare professionals. We're improving on the conditions of their service so that we may retain them to work in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, Umar Mahmoud Mokhtar, and this is a fascinating story. Umar Mahmoud Mokhtar, and he's up there in the gallery. Mr. Speaker, this gentleman worked as a farmhand, but he had always dreamed of becoming a healthcare professional. His opportunity came when a health training institute was opened in Laura in the Upper West region. And Mr. Speaker, as I speak, this young man is well on his course to realizing his dream of becoming a healthcare professional. Mr. Speaker, this gentleman might probably save your life one day. Mr. Speaker, we are providing and building a better health infrastructure and providing more modern equipment to meet the current and future needs of our population. And so, Mr. Speaker, people like Mercy Poma, who gave birth at the Nkran Kwanta Polyclinic in January of this year, because Mercy's previous pregnancy went through a cesarean section, her condition with this pregnancy was delicate and one that could ordinarily have endangered her life. Mr. Speaker, because her first childbirth was by cesarean section, it was obvious that the pregnancy was delicate and one that could ordinarily only be undertaken by a higher level healthcare facility. Having access to a capable and well-equipped polyclinic nearby decreased the travel time necessary for Mercy to access medical attention throughout the pregnancy. And also when it came to time to deliver her twins, the establishment of a new polyclinic at Nkran Kwanta ensured that she delivered safely. And so today she is the proud mother of twins who are safe and sound because a modern polyclinic was built in her community. Mr. Speaker, stories like this should be ordinary and expected, not exemplary, and we are working hard to make it so. I firmly believe that Ghana's health system has been placed permanently on the right trajectory, and that it will be the healthcare system that other nations on the African continent will emulate and strive to duplicate. Mr. Speaker, the Ghana AIDS Commission has successfully coordinated implementation of the National HIV and AIDS Strategic Plan, 2011 to 2015. Adult HIV prevalence rate has stabilized over the past 3 years. The current prevalence of 1.4% reflects declining new HIV infections and reduced morbidity and mortality among persons living with HIV. Through targeted prevention strategies, new HIV infections have declined. We have seen a consistent reduction in new HIV infections from a baseline of 16,200 new infections to 11,356, a 30% decline over the past 5 years. Mr. Speaker, we are aiming to eliminate mother-to-child transmission of HIV. We also are aiming to eliminate infection of pregnant mothers and put them on treatment in order that they do not pass the transmission to their children. Mr. Speaker, the prevalence of HIV-exposed babies has reduced drastically to 8% at birth and 21% after breastfeeding, down from 32%. Mr. Speaker, on social protection, we recognize that while carrying out structural reforms to achieve fiscal stability, many vulnerable families and households that are below the poverty line could suffer further deterioration in their quality of life. For this reason, government takes its social protection policies very seriously. We've made remarkable gains in the gender, children, and social protection sector by strengthening the legal and policy framework, effectively mainstreaming gender concerns, and increasing child rights protection. Mr. Speaker, the Cabinet has approved 5 important policies to strengthen our children and social protection: the Child and Family Welfare Policy, the National Gender Policy, the Social Protection Policy, the Justice for Children Policy, and the School Feeding Policy. Other critical pieces of legislation designed to strengthen our social protection programs, such as the Affirmative Action Bill, the Aging Bill, the Domestic Violence Regulations, Adoption and Foster Care Regulations, have all been finalized and validated. These bills and regulations will be presented to this House this year to be enacted into law. In addition, we are also implementing programs to protect the elderly. The new EBAN card, introduced by the ministry, has gained acceptance in many institutions, and the elderly who present this card at bus stations, banks, hospitals, and other public places are given priority in order of service. So far, over 14,000 cards have been issued in 7 regions, with the Ministry of Gender, Children, and Social Protection set to issue another 9,000 cards to conclude the first phase of the program. Mr. Speaker, we also continue to work to improve the opportunities available to persons with disability. It has been proven over and over again that disability is not inability. Our Minister for Chieftaincy and Traditional Affairs, Dr. Seydou Dana, is a living testimony to the veracity of this statement. Mr. Speaker, he performs his duties just as effectively as any other member of my cabinet. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Ivor Greenstreet, for many years General Secretary of the CPP and now presidential candidate of the party, is also a testament to the fact that disability should not be allowed to be a bar to achievement. Mr. Speaker, it is estimated that persons with one form of disability or another constitute roughly 10% of our population, meaning that more than 2.6 million of our compatriots fall into this bracket. I'm of the opinion that marginalization of such a huge segment of our population is not only unconscionable and impractical, but it's unwise. Many governmental and charity institutions are providing skills training for persons with disability to improve their opportunities in the world of work. Under the Skills Development Fund, support has been provided to the Ghana Society for the Physically Disabled to procure a modern automated chalk molding plant in order to enhance the production of chalk at their factory. This support will allow the organization to meet the standards required by the Ghana Education Service. Training was also provided for the Lakeside Cross Disability Self-Help Group by the Animal Research Division of CSIR in animal husbandry, with an eye to the enhancement of sustainable livelihoods. Mr. Speaker, to create further opportunities for persons with disability, I have requested the Administrator of the District Assembly's Common Fund to increase the disability grants from 2% to 3%. Mr. Speaker, this is a 50% increase for the current fiscal year. Mr. Speaker, this formula is to be presented to the members of this August House for your approval. The moratorium for disabled access to public buildings pursuant to the Persons with Disability Act of 2006 expires this year. The National Council on Persons with Disability has developed the Ghana Standards on Accessibility Designs for implementation. This will enable owners of public buildings to provide accessibility to buildings for disabled persons. Mr. Speaker, last year on July 23rd, I became the first sitting president to pay a formal visit to a Ghanaian prison. Joining the Prison Council, officers and inmates of Nsawam for the launch of Project Efiase opened my eyes to the deplorable conditions that exist in our prisons. As a follow-up to my visit, the Prisons Council commissioned the design of a new remand block at Nsawam Prison. This is specifically designed to decongest the prison, and this project will begin construction this year. Mr. Speaker, in order to empower headquarters Kayaye and reduce their vulnerabilities, we've set up a coordinated gender-based response center at Malamata and Agbogloshi Market as a pilot to provide humanitarian support, counseling services, and psychosocial support to Kayayes and market women. Mr. Speaker, and if some people will return the alleged 5,000 they were given, we can add it to this program. Mr. Speaker, we've also registered thousands of the Kayaye free onto the NHIS in order to enable them to access quality health care. In addition, a microfinance credit program for alternative livelihoods for market porters, Kayaye, will also be launched this year. Mr. Speaker, since 2013, government has progressively expanded the Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty program from 1,640 beneficiary households in 2008. It increased to 71,000 in January 2013. And Mr. Speaker, as I speak, as of November 2015, LEAP has been expanded to 144,980 beneficiary households. The cash grants have also been increased this year. This has helped beneficiaries to not only address their crucial needs, but has also allowed for some of them to invest some of their income into income generation projects that supplement family finances. And I'll share with you just two such examples of this. Mr. Speaker, 42-year-old LEAP beneficiary, Zainabu Sumaila, Mr. Speaker, Zainabu Sumaila is from Ninkongo in the Pusiga district of the Upper East region. She has invested a part of her LEAP grant into pig farming. Before that, she had no meaningful source of livelihood. Zainabu used to help her husband to tend a small farm, but after her husband died, it threw she and her two children into abject poverty. She had to rely on the kindness of the people in her community for virtually everything. Mr. Speaker, even the chief of Ninkongo had to assist her in feeding her household. The lack of an income source also meant that her children could not attend school regularly, and the family could not afford health care. After receiving her cash grant on a number of occasions, Zainabu started saving, and she invested in animal rearing. She started with just one piglet, and she now has more than 10. She has been able to supplement her cash grant with income generated from selling piglets on the market. And as a result of this, she is now able to buy enough food for her household. And her children are attending school regularly, and by virtue of being a LEAP beneficiary, Zainabu was able to register on the National Health Insurance, free of charge. Mr. Speaker, another LEAP beneficiary is Awenemi Apogyanga from Sumbrungu in Bolgatanga. Mr. Speaker, Awenemi Apogyanga from Sumbrungu in Bolgatanga. Mr. Speaker, she proved to be just as enterprising. A widow, Awenemi used to try to make ends meet by using her loom that she owned to weave traditional cloth. The money this brought in was not enough to sustain her household, so her children would often skip school to do part-time work to make enough money to buy the material that she needed to sew the cloth. Mr. Speaker, with the assistance of the LEAP program, Awenemi procured a weaving machine, and she is not only able to afford the material in order to make the cloth, which she then sells to smock makers at the Bolgatanga market. As a result of this, her children no longer have to abandon school to go and work to help earn money for their household. Mr. Speaker, these are living testimonies of how people's lives are changed. Mr. Speaker, to ensure the smooth implementation of the National Youth Policy in January 2015, I launched the Policy Implementation Plan. The plan provides an accelerated framework with specific timelines for the adoption of programs and activities in the policy document. Mr. Speaker, a total of 1,646 youth were trained under a vocational skills training program that was conducted by the country's Youth Leadership and Skills Training Institutes. Mr. Speaker, the Youth Employment Agency Act 2015 has been passed to create a solid foundation upon which the Youth Employment Agency can be structured and run. Recruitment under the YEA has also started, and it is targeted to recruit 100,000 young people over the next 12 months in 5 different modules. Mr. Speaker, the new Youth Employment Agency is implementing a purely cashless organization where all financial transactions will be electronic or by check. Mr. Speaker, the Youth Enterprise Support Initiative also made significant progress in the year under review. A total of 2,048 applications were received in response to its first call, and 107 individuals were selected for financial and technical support. The vetting and final selection of beneficiaries was done by independent experts, business stakeholders, and on a panel. Out of the 107 beneficiaries, 81 were earmarked to receive financial support and 26 to receive technical support. The progress of all beneficiaries is closely monitored by the YES Business Support Team and the YES Monitoring and Evaluation Desk through mandatory reporting and regular business site visits and audits. That first call under YES has created over 800 direct and indirect jobs for Ghanaian youth. The second call for applications was made in January this year, and so far almost 4,000 applications have been received. I urge our youth to take advantage of this initiative. Mr. Speaker, one growing area of opportunity for our young people is in ICT services and applications. In the last few years, we've made significant progress in entrepreneurship support and the incubation of programs. These serve as foundations for a strong digital ICT market. A number of interventions are being implemented, including MLabs, iHubs, Accra BPO Center, Kumasi Business Incubator, Regional Innovation Centers, and the ICT Park in Tema to boost the innovation ecosystem and enhance digital opportunities and entrepreneurship. Mr. Speaker, under sports, in addition to the construction of the Cape Coast Stadium, which has been completed and I shall have the privilege of commissioning soon, Mr. Speaker, the Cape Coast Stadium, which has been completed and I shall have the honor of commissioning soon, we've also completed the drawings and bills of quantities for the construction of the new Edubiasi Sports Stadium. And I'm sure Honorable Yaka will be very happy about this. Mr. Speaker, last September, Ghana participated in the 2015 All-African Games held in Congo, Brazzaville, and won a total of 19 medals. Our women's football team must be particularly commended for winning the football trophy. Mr. Speaker, the senior national football team, the Black Stars, played second in the African Nations Cup tournament held in Equatorial Guinea in January 2015. And the Black Starlights placed third in the Orange Africa Under-20 Cup of Nations tournament held in Senegal last year. Mr. Speaker, government commits to the implementation of the findings and recommendations of the World Cup Commission, even as we confront the legal hurdles ahead. Mr. Speaker, a new boxing gym and sports complex being built by SNIT near the Kole Lagoon will be commissioned this year. This will give opportunity for young people in Bukom and other surrounding areas who have a talent for boxing to realize their dreams. Nilante, your boxing gym is here. Mr. Speaker, when I took office as president, our economy was faced with severe challenges from both domestic policy misalignment and external shocks. The resulting effect was a budget deficit of 11.5% of GDP and a current account deficit of 11.7% of GDP. Expenditure pressures emanating largely from the compensation of public sector employees, budgetary overruns, shortfall in corporate income tax, and low development partner inflows accounted for the high fiscal deficit. On the other hand, developments in commodity prices and a tightening of financing for middle-income countries jointly contributed to the high current account deficit. At the time of our independence, the agricultural sector accounted for about 50% of GDP. It currently accounts for 21.5% of GDP. The services sector is right now the largest sector with slightly over a 50% share of GDP. Following it is the industrial sector, which accounts for about 26.6% of GDP. Despite this significant shift in the structure of our economy, the nature of our exports has virtually remained the same. We have a narrow base of export commodities and a high dependence on imports. This situation has subjected our economy to shocks in the face of global price volatilities. In fact, we have witnessed a simultaneous fall in crude oil, cocoa, and gold prices. The price of a barrel of crude oil has fallen by more than 70% since 2014. And as it stands today, Brent crude oil is selling at around $33 per barrel, from a high of US $100 per barrel. Mr. Speaker, this is the lowest since 2004. Even though cocoa and gold prices have had a significant effect on the balance of payment and tax revenues, the oil decline is a mixed bag that favorably supports crude oil import bill but affects negatively the annual budget funding amount of the budget. This explains why we had to revise the original 2015 budget with a supplementary budget that was presented to this August House on 21st July 2015. Over the last few years, we have taken significant measures to address the real sector of the economy. As a first step, we started to diversify the economy by intensifying value-added additions to our exports. For example, in August 2015, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources inaugurated a new $7 million gold refinery at Adjingano in Accra. This is the second of its kind in Ghana. The Sahara Royal Gold Refinery Limited has the capacity to refine between 200 and 300 kilos of gold daily. And the expectation is that a growing number of licensed gold buyers who have traditionally purchased raw minerals from Ghana and have exported them to other countries will seek to refine that gold right here in Ghana, creating jobs, and therefore aiding inclusive growth. Mr. Speaker, assistance to the KNUST Jewelry School is also aimed at training a corps of craftsmen to kickstart a jewelry industry in this country. Additionally, as part of our agenda to achieve value-added and export-led economy, the Ghana Export and Import Bank Bill has been laid before this August House. The primary purpose is to finance exports, notably light industrial and agricultural products, to guarantee loans, provide export insurance, support small and medium enterprises and other businesses, and strengthen our access to markets under economic cooperation programs such as the Africa Growth and Opportunities Act and Economic Partnership Agreements, the EPAs. The operations of the bank will support the nurturing and growth of the private sector in Ghana and address the long-standing problem of access to credit for expanding value-added exports. I intend to sign this bill into law as soon as this House passes it, because it will underscore Ghana's story of transformation. Our second strategy has been to invest heavily in building transformative infrastructure. As an emerging middle-income country with a growing middle class, this will form the basis of a new growth trajectory in the economy, generating jobs and increasing incomes. In furtherance of this, it was decided to create strong institutions that will help us achieve our goals. As with the Exim Bank, the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund was established for a similar purpose. These institutions combined will serve as buffers for managing the economy, while providing the space for spending on socio-economic infrastructure. The Ghana Exim Bank and the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund are some of the more enduring and independent mechanisms for addressing the root causes of our particular macroeconomic challenges. Government has additionally deployed a new debt management strategy that includes making commercial projects pay for loans that are procured to complete such projects. Mr. Speaker, government benefited tremendously from the outcome of the Senchi Consensus. Suggestions from the enthusiastic participants led to the validation of a homegrown fiscal consolidation plan, which was eventually presented to this August House for consideration. Specific interventions included major public financial management reforms in the area of budgeting, accounting, revenue administration, wage management, debt management, and other structural reforms. The primary goal of this coordinated policy was to stabilize the economy, facilitate inclusive growth, protect social spending, and create decent jobs. On the basis of this plan, I took the decision to enter into the IMF Extended Credit Facility Program to give credibility to our policies. Our commitment to the implementation of the program has led to 2 successful reviews under the IMF program in 2015. A third review is due in April of this year. This year, Ghana is expected to achieve a budget deficit as low as 5.3% of GDP under the IMF Extended Credit Facility, which provides a tighter fiscal space than originally anticipated. It is within this context that we must practice an even greater degree of fiscal prudence in 2016. The bane of our economic management has been the cyclical, huge election year budget deficits. It is an unfavorable narrative for which Ghana, unfortunately, has become famous. I have assured the nation and our partners that my administration will exercise strict fiscal discipline even in this election year. Mr. Speaker, my administration will exercise strict fiscal discipline even in this election year in order that we can also transform this negative narrative of our country. Mr. Speaker, this has not been an easy road to travel. As President, I swore an oath to act in the best interest of our nation. Mr. Speaker, acting in a nation's best interest is not synonymous with taking only decisions that make one popular. And I wish to take the opportunity to thank the good people of Ghana for your understanding and patience during these challenging times that we have endured together. For your understanding and patience during these challenging times that we have endured together. The sacrifices that we have made place our economy back on a path of growth. Mr. Speaker, it makes our economy more resilient even in a volatile global financial environment. Mr. Speaker, working together, we have chalked major achievements in our economic management journey so far. We've contained the unsustainable utility and fuel subsidy overruns by implementing the automatic price adjustments of petroleum and utility prices. That took effect in July and December 2015, respectively. The implication has been a minimal budgeted amount of about 50 million Ghana cedis for the 2015 budget and provisional outturn relatively lower than provided for. Considering that in the past, government has had cause to spend over 1 billion for overruns in subsidies, this makes this not an easy feat for any government to achieve, especially at this time. For the first time in many years, negotiation with our trade union partners within budget constraint before the 2016 budget has been achieved. We acknowledge the enormous support from organized labor and our trade union partners who have shown understanding on the need to achieve fiscal consolidation. In the same vein, we have had human resource and payroll system upgrades and audits with a major policy of a net freeze on employment in some public sectors, excluding health and education. The effect has been a reduction in the wage to GDP ratio from 8.9% in 2012 to 7.9% in 2015, and as a percentage of tax revenue, a reduction from 53.3% in 2012 to 43.6% in 2015, as well as our success in migrating public sector staff onto the single spine salary structure. It is expected that with the stability achieved, negotiations for base pay for next year will commence in April this year. Our investment in the energy sector has started bearing fruit. Mr. Speaker, with the support of honorable members of Parliament, we have amended the Petroleum Revenue Management Act to reflect current policy realities. We are witnessing increased inward investment into Ghana's oil and gas sector, despite the current low price on the global markets. We intend to clean up the financial challenges that have affected the viability of the state-owned enterprises in the energy sector. Mr. Speaker, microfinance companies over the past 5 years, Mr. Speaker, over the past 5 years, there has been a proliferation of microfinance companies. Mr. Speaker, as honorable members of this House who passed the Bank of Ghana Act know, these companies, microfinance companies, come under the direct supervision of the Bank of Ghana. Unfortunately, please listen attentively. It will help some of those I hear put their money, some of the members in this House who put their money into DKM. Mr. Speaker.
Order.
Mr. Speaker, on a serious note, it comes under the direct supervision of the Bank of Ghana. Unfortunately, lack of effective supervision on the part of the central bank has resulted in many cases. You can't fire the governor of the Bank of Ghana. You know that. You passed the Bank of Ghana Act. You passed the Bank of Ghana Act and made the central bank autonomous. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, a lack of effective supervision on the part of the central bank has resulted in many cases in which microfinance companies licensed by the bank have breached the rules of procedure they were supposed to follow and have created supposed pyramid schemes that eventually came crashing down. Mr. Speaker, one such case is DKM. Mr. Speaker, DKM, with the super high interest rates of between 50 and 55% promised to depositors, is believed to have caused a loss to its clients in excess of 77 million Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, many depositors have lost their life savings and their livelihoods. While our laws place this matter squarely in the ambit of the Bank of Ghana, government has a concern for the poor, unsuspecting Ghanaian clients who deserve to have been protected by a more robust inspection and supervisory regime by the central bank. Mr. Speaker, I'm aware that the Bank of Ghana has commenced liquidation proceedings in respect of DKM. And I believe that this process should be part of a comprehensive package that looks at the protection of the livelihoods of especially small depositors without rewarding the reckless conduct of the microfinance company, in this case DKM. The object of this exercise should be to look at reimbursing legitimate customers of their original deposits. The object of this must be to look at reimbursing legitimate customers of their original deposit amounts, not the Alice in Wonderland profits that they hope to acquire. This initiative should be conceived in the context of a broader solution that will permanently sanitize and restore credibility to the microfinance industry and strengthen the Bank of Ghana's supervision. Mr. Speaker, this August House has a role to play. We must fast-track. Mr. Speaker, this August House has a role to play in fast-tracking the Ghana Deposit Protection Bill, which would protect small depositors' funds in a similar situation like this in the future. And so that bill is coming to you, and if you pass it, in future, we will not have things like DKM. Mr. Speaker, in the energy sector, government in 2013 formulated the local content and local participation policy. Mr. Speaker, approximately 7,000 people have been employed in the upstream sector of the oil and gas industry, 5,590 Ghanaians and 1,350 expatriates. Out of the 474 companies registered with the Petroleum Commission, 321 are indigenous companies and 46 are joint ventures. Out of the total value of 6.3 billion contracts awarded from 2010 to 2015, over $1 billion has gone to indigenous companies. Mr. Speaker, specifically, as at the third quarter of 2015, $201,072,000, representing 41% of a total of $792 million, $623,000 worth of investment for the year was awarded to indigenous companies. Mr. Speaker, like I said, specifically in the third quarter, $201,072,000 went to indigenous companies under the local content policy. Mr. Speaker, on the downstream level, our vision is to create Ghana as a hub for petroleum distribution in the sub-region. Already, BOST has begun supplying petroleum products to the landlocked countries of Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali from their Bolgatanga depot. TOR, I'm pleased to announce, is operational and is poised to resume its strategic role in petroleum production in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, I salute the acting MD and the staff of the refinery for the hard work and sacrifice they have made to bring the refinery back on stream. Mr. Speaker, and this is very interesting, the staff of TOR voluntarily took an unprecedented 20% pay cut as their contribution for putting TOR back on its feet. Mr. Speaker, the chairman of the TOR Workers Union and some of his staff are here with us today. If they are here, I salute you. Well done. Mr. Speaker, a year ago, I stood before this very august House and promised to fix the power sector deficit Mr. Speaker, a year ago, I stood before this very august House and promised to fix the power sector deficit that at the time had become a significant constraint to the economic growth and had become a major disruption of the lives of Ghanaians, both at home and at work. Mr. Speaker, this was a time of considerable national anxiety. A huge deficit in power generation had resulted in prolonged power rationing. Mr. Speaker, I was painfully aware of the difficulties this situation was posing to Ghanaians. Mr. Speaker, Ghanaians had to put up with long hours of darkness or spend money on expensive fuel to run their generators. Mr. Speaker, businesses faced serious disruption or saw their costs go up if they had to operate on generators. Mr. Speaker, on that occasion, I expressed my deep regret to the nation over the situation, and Mr. Speaker, I took full responsibility as President and leader of this nation and Commander-in-Chief. Mr. Speaker, I took full responsibility as Commander-in-Chief. It has not been easy. Mr. Speaker, it has been a year of hard work. Mr. Speaker, hard work that has made us achieve, Mr. Speaker, listen to this carefully. Hard work that has made us achieve the fastest mobilization of emergency power in the history of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, about 800 megawatts of power has been added to our generation within the shortest period of time. Mr. Speaker, within the shortest period of time, fast-tracking the finalization and commissioning of KTPP added 220 megawatts. Mr. Speaker, fast-tracking the commissioning of TICO's combined cycle added 110 megawatts. Mr. Speaker, mobilizing car power added another 220 megawatts. And Mr. Speaker, as I speak, Ameri is adding 250 megawatts extra power to our transmission grid. Mr. Speaker, in addition, 180 megawatts of Asogli Phase 2 is also available as soon as we can get extra gas for it. But, Mr. Speaker, much work still needs to be done. Much work still needs to be done to give us the comfort of sustainable generation going forward. Mr. Speaker, I salute the former Minister of Power, Dr. Kwabena Donkor, Mr. Speaker, and his Deputy Minister, John Jinapor, Mr. Speaker, and their team of competent technical people. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Ama Kofi Boa and his team at the Petroleum Ministry, I salute you. Mr. Speaker, I acknowledge the Chief Executive and staff of the PURC, the Energy Commission, the VRA, GRIDCO, ECG, GMPC, Ghana Gas Company Limited, Ministry of Finance, and Attorney General's Department. Mr. Speaker, it has taken teamwork and the cooperation of many people to achieve this success. And so on this occasion, I take the opportunity to thank all those who have worked with me for us to overcome this challenge that our nation confronted. Mr. Speaker, I thank this august House too for passing the agreements that made it possible for us to procure these additional generating sets. Mr. Speaker, no, you're not sleeping. Much of our power, you're not sleeping. That was a joke. Much of our power is based on thermal generation now. Mr. Speaker, Akosombo is producing currently at about 380 megawatts. That is just about 40% of its capacity. Mr. Speaker, Akosombo is a 1,020 megawatt plant. It is currently producing at 380 megawatts. And so most of our generation today is based on thermal power. Mr. Speaker, all our hydro sources are strained because of the low level of the Volta Lake caused by a changing climate. Mr. Speaker, more thermal generation has meant that we have had to pay more in tariffs if we are to maintain sustainable power for our people. I therefore, on this occasion, wish to thank Ghanaians for your patience and your understanding. Mr. Speaker, I pledge to Ghanaians that I will continue to work to ensure that we never find ourselves in such a dreadful situation ever again. Mr. Speaker, to end up never being there again, we must add even more generation to keep ahead of a robust growth of almost 12% increase in demand every year. Planned power based on MOUs and power purchase agreements that we have. An additional generation of about 3,500 megawatts can be achieved by the year 2020. Mr. Speaker, if we do this, this will ensure Ghana's power security and will position Ghana as the power hub of West Africa. Mr. Speaker, in this term and my next term, I wish... Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker,
order, order, order.
Mr. Speaker, in this term
members,
and my next term,
let's have order in the chamber.
I intend...
Order! Order!
In this term and my next term, I intend to work hard to achieve this objective. Mr. Speaker, additional power into the national grid will aim at diversifying fuel sources, from gas to crude oil, LPG, and LNG. Additionally, there will be an injection of renewable energy. Currently, Ghana has about 25 megawatts of solar power being transmitted into the national grid. This is set to increase to about 200 megawatts over the next 4 years. Already, several small and medium enterprises have been provided with rooftop solar plants, following my announcement of a target of 200,000 rooftop solar projects for small businesses and residential users. Mr. Speaker, some of the micro enterprises that have been connected include Young Dollar Barbering Shop. Some of the small and medium enterprises that have been connected with solar include Young Dollar Barbering Shop. It's in Mamobi, so for those of you who want a haircut, you can look at them. Mr. Speaker, Alice Skills Training Center for hairdressers. This one is located at Trade Fair. Mr. Speaker, Dara Beauty Parlor is at South Labadi. And Mr. Speaker, Renee Designs Limited is in Nima. And Emakanse Tailoring is at Alajo. And Mercy Fashion is at Lashibi. Mr. Speaker, the PURC Energy Commission, working with the Ministry of Power, will intensify implementation nationwide in order to achieve the target of 200,000. African Plantations for Sustainable Development is also poised to pump 60 megawatts of biomass energy into our transmission grid following the signing of a PPA with ECG. Government is also initiating this year a program to substitute incandescent and CFL bulbs with LED bulbs. The Ministries of Finance and Power are finalizing processes for the implementation of the private sector participation program for the Electricity Company of Ghana Limited. Mr. Speaker, in anticipation of tariffs being paid by all universal tariffs, the Electricity Company of Ghana is undergoing corporate reorganization to make its operations more responsive to customers' desires. The strategic focus is to improve general customer service, delivery response time when attending to false and customer complaints, staff attitudes, and professional competence. Mr. Speaker, ECG is on course to increase prepayment meter coverage, by which time a total of 400,000 prepayment meters should be installed. Cabinet has approved the Millennium Challenge Compact and its 498 million grant, which will provide a major boost in addressing energy efficiency problems, as well as improving access to energy in this country. Mr. Speaker, in 2015, several major power distribution network projects were completed, while others reached an advanced stage of work, even as we worked around the clock to bring load shedding to an end. We are also vigorously working to bring electricity to as many of our people as possible. When I appeared before you last year, 76% of our people had access to electricity. Mr. Speaker, as I speak with you now, 80.5% of our people now enjoy access to electricity. Mr. Speaker, this compares significantly with the 58% access to power in 2008. Mr. Speaker, and the difference this has made in the lives of the people in these communities is monumental. Mr. Speaker, Shirazu Isaku is a vulcanizer. He operates at the Fufuso Junction. For those of you who don't know, Fufuso Junction is also called Damango Junction. This town is located in the central Gonja district of the northern region. It is on the main Kintampo-Tamale Road. Mr. Speaker, Shirazu has 2 wives and 12 children. Shirazu, realizing the strategic location of the Fufuso Junction as an intersection between the northern, Upper West, and Brong-Ahafo regions, as well as the heavy vehicular traffic on the route from landlocked countries like Burkina Faso and Niger, established a small vulcanizing shop in the early 1990s. Until the extension of electricity to Fufuso Junction in 2015 last year, Shirazu had to depend on diesel to run his generator, not to talk about the hazardous effects of the fumes that he suffered. Mr. Speaker, the extension of electricity to Fufuso town has changed Shirazu's life drastically. Today, not only does he have dependable, reliable, and sustainable power for his business, he is also able to work in the night. Other traders in the village are also benefiting from his enterprise. Mr. Speaker, Kenke Seller Afishata also takes advantage of the presence of drivers to sell the popular Fufuso Kenke and fish to drivers and passengers who stop to make use of the vulcanizing services. Mr. Speaker, today, trade is booming in Fufuso town both day and night as a result of the installation of street lights. Mr. Speaker, Shirazu Isaku is in this gallery. Mr. Speaker, with this massive expansion in electricity coverage, I wish to urge the Energy Commission and the general public to work together to implement energy conservation. These would help to reduce our tariffs and the bills that we pay, and also ensure judicious use of our scarce power resources. Mr. Speaker, all these gains will be undermined if the issue of the financial viability of our utility companies is not addressed. For nearly 2 decades now, our power sector companies have piled on astronomical debts that have severely impeded their ability to perform at optimum level. It is a mark of their resilience and commitment to the national cause that they have survived till this day. Together, Volta River Authority, Ghana Grid Company, and the Electricity Company of Ghana owe a colossal amount of billions of cedis. These debts are referred to as legacy debts because they have not just recently been accumulated, they have been building up for close to 2 decades. While it is true that there have been periodic upward adjustments in tariffs over the years, the amount of tariffs paid have not been adequate to meet the operational expenditures of these utilities. For example, the VRA produces electricity at an average rate of 32 cents per kilowatt hour and turns around and sells same to ECG at 21 cents per kilowatt hour. The shortfall in revenue have traditionally been programmed to be made up through the payment of subsidies by government. Mr. Speaker, the reality is that while some subsidies have been paid over the years, perennial budget constraints and numerous competing demands have made it virtually impossible for successive governments to meet this obligation. It is therefore obvious that the operation of these power utilities cannot be sustained if nothing is done to arrest the situation. The situation that we are faced with requires very difficult but necessary measures to sustain these vital utility companies. The alternative to not acting will be a total collapse of the power sector of this country. And Mr. Speaker, the consequences will be too catastrophic for anyone to imagine. It is on this basis that we placed the Energy Sector Levy Bill before this August House in December last year, and for which we received your very gracious approval. Mr. Speaker, if we were to free the credit lines of the utility companies by ring-fencing and paying off the legacy debt, we will be putting them back in a better position to provide us with reliable and sustainable power. Mr. Speaker, as President, I did not take this decision lightly, knowing the implications for the budgets of many of our households. It was, however, the only option available after all others had been evaluated. Mr. Speaker, leaders sometimes are called upon to make tough decisions whose overall benefits outweigh their initial difficulties. And the energy sector levy is one of those types of decisions that I had to take. Mr. Speaker, it is a measure whose benefits will become apparent sooner rather than later. Mr. Speaker, I deeply regret any hardship this may have caused, but if we are to fix our energy challenges permanently, then this decision was absolutely imperative. Mr. Speaker, we have to diversify our economy, and as part of efforts to diversify sources of national revenue, as well as providing additional income to farmers, the government, through the Ghana Cocoa Board, intends to increase Ghana's annual coffee production from the current level of about 6,000. If you didn't know it, we export coffee. We export about 6,000 metric tons a year. We intend to increase this from 6,000 metric tons to 100,000 metric tons in the short to medium term. Production of coffee in Ghana has been low, ranging from a peak of 6,700 metric tons in the mid-1960s to as low as 1,140 metric tons in 2009. Government support for Cocoa Board's pilot coffee rehabilitation project, instituted in 2010, resulted in a gradual increase in production to 6,000 metric tons by 2015. Mr. Speaker, the government, through Ghana Cocoa Board, is promoting coffee cultivation in areas considered as marginal for cocoa production. Coffee thrives very well in areas with less rainfall, ranging between 1,200 millimeters and 2,000 millimeters per annum, but can also grow in areas with a minimum of 1,000 millimeters of rainfall per annum, but under irrigation. Mr. Speaker, parts of Volta, Eastern, Central, and the transition areas of Ashanti and Brong-Ahafo regions are suitable for coffee growing. Mr. Speaker, communities like Techiman, Wenchi, Bechem, Onkranza, Atebubu, Kwame Danso, Drobo, Akomadan, Offenso, Jamase, Mampong, Ashanti, Ketekrachi, and Dambai are being targeted for aggressive promotion of coffee cultivation. Mr. Speaker, the Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana has developed a high-yielding variety of coffee that, under good management, can start bearing in 2 to 3 years after planting, with an average yield of 2 to 3 metric tons per hectare, and with a projected planted area of 100,000 hectares over the next 6 years. It is estimated that from 2020 onwards, about 100,000 metric tons of coffee can be produced annually in this country, which will subsequently increase to about 200,000 metric tons over the next decade. Mr. Speaker, this will provide a lot of jobs for our people. This year, this is what we're doing. This year, 5 million improved, early maturing and high-yielding coffee seedlings are being raised and will be supplied free of charge to farmers who are interested in going into coffee farming. Mr. Speaker, this number will be substantially increased annually to ensure that we achieve the 100,000 hectares of coffee farms in the targeted locations by 2020. The efforts being made to increase coffee production will be backed with readily available marketing channels for farmers. Mr. Speaker, cocoa remains the mainstay of our economy. And let me state for the avoidance of doubt that this initiative in coffee will coexist with the cocoa industry without sacrificing the interests of cocoa farmers. Mr. Speaker, to ensure long-term sustainability of cocoa cultivation in the country, government through the Ghana Cocoa Board has initiated a program to motivate the youth to engage in cocoa farming. This will reduce the rural-urban migration, enhance incomes and livelihoods, and boost the rural economy. Mr. Speaker, the motivation package includes provision of effective extension support, free cocoa seedlings, free sulfate of ammonia fertilizers to boost early growth, and the establishment of cocoa and enhanced access to mass spraying inputs. Mr. Speaker, I heard somebody saying they were going to subsidize cocoa inputs. We're giving them free. You can't subsidize what is being given free. Mr. Speaker, since this free cocoa inputs program was launched in 2014, over 30,000 youth have signed up in Ashanti, Central, Eastern, and Western regions. Government, through the Ghana Cocoa Board, has rolled out programs that will increase productivity of cocoa farms from an average yield of 0.5 tons per hectare to over 1.5 tons per hectare, to renew the cocoa tree stock and increase productivity. Government has directed the Ghana Cocoa Board to raise and distribute freely to cocoa farmers improved hybrid cocoa seedlings. During the 2014-2015 season, 50 million cocoa seedlings were raised at 87 nursery sites and distributed free of charge to farmers. For the 2015-2016 season, the nursery sites have been increased to 331, and we expect to produce 60 million seedlings across the cocoa growing regions for free distribution to cocoa farmers. Mr. Speaker, the increase in the nursery sites is aimed at bringing the seedlings closer to the doorsteps of the farming communities. The seedling production involves the engagement of 4,800 young people as casual laborers. 4,800 young people have got jobs in the cocoa growing communities. Mr. Speaker, the 60 million seedlings, which is equivalent to 50,000 hectares of cocoa farms, will increase the existing cocoa plantations significantly. At the average output of 1.5 tons per hectare, an additional 750,000 metric tons can be added to Ghana's cocoa output over the next 10 years. Mr. Speaker, to motivate cocoa farmers to boost output and encourage the youth to take up cocoa farming as a lucrative business, government will continue to pay remunerative prices to farmers for both the 2014-2015 cocoa season. Farmers were paid 5,600 Ghana cedis per ton, including their bonus. This time, we don't wait to pay them the bonus at a later date. When we pay them for the cocoa, we pay them their bonus immediately. Mr. Speaker, this price was increased by 21.4% to 6,800 cedis per ton for the 2015-2016 academic year, farming year. 2015-2016 farming year. And again, this included their bonus. That is, the cocoa farmers were paid their bonus immediately they were being paid for their cocoa. Mr. Speaker, during the 2013-2014 farming season, government made it a policy to distribute fertilizer free of charge to cocoa farmers and also enhance the mass spraying program to boost production. As a result, the 2015-2016 season, 2.4 million bags of granular fertilizer and 1.6 million liters of foliar fertilizer have been procured for free distribution to farmers. For the mass spraying exercise, 1,500 tons of fungicide and 1.7 million liters of insecticide will be supplied to farmers. Mr. Speaker, over 58,000 young persons in cocoa farming communities have been engaged as sprayers for the program. Government appreciates the efforts made by traditional authorities and landowners by generously offering land to farmers who intend to engage in cocoa farming, especially the youth. And Mr. Speaker, I would like, and please pay attention, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, this is important, that's why I'm drawing your attention. I would like to thank Nana Bafo Kwame Enim II. He's done something special. Nana Bafo Kwame Enim II, and he's in the gallery here. Mr. Speaker, university curriculums have changed now, and you are supposed to do evidence-based learning, and so evidence-based learning. So for everything I'm telling you, I'm providing you with the evidence. Mr. Speaker, Nana Enim II is the chief of Krodua. It's a town in the eastern region. In whose constituency does Krodua fall? Good. In Krodua. Mr. Speaker, Nana Enim has offered 500 acres of fertile land to young people, men and women in his community to cultivate cocoa. 500 acres to cultivate cocoa. Mr. Speaker, I wish to make a passionate appeal to traditional authorities and landowners to emulate Nana's example and continue to offer land to young persons that are interested in going into cocoa farming or into agriculture. Mr. Speaker, cocoa farming has become lucrative, and so many persons are going into it because of the attractive price we are paying. As I speak, there's a young lady who holds a master's in education who is engaged in cocoa farming. She has 9 hectares of cocoa farm, and this helps to supplement her income. Mr. Speaker, government intends to commence a new initiative in palm oil production. Ghana is currently a net importer of palm oil, and yet we have the comparative advantage to produce palm oil and therefore vegetable cooking oil of all kinds for our own consumption. Mr. Speaker, we intend to reverse this situation. It will create countless jobs and provide raw material for many uses and industry. We will consider the setting up of a palm development board to supervise this project, to supervise and implement this project. Mr. Speaker, shea nut continues to be an important crop in the northern part of this country. The first publicly owned shea nut processing plant with an initial capacity of 100 metric tons per day was established and commissioned in May 2012 at Buipe in the central Gonja district of the northern region. Arrangements are far advanced for the expansion of its capacity to 200 metric tons per day. Government also plans to establish similar plants in the Upper East and Upper West regions. Mr. Speaker, since the inception of the shea board in regulating shea nut purchases, similar to what pertains in cocoa purchases, the price for a bag of shea nuts has increased from 28 cedis in 2009 to the current price of 130 cedis per bag. This is an increase of over 264%. Mr. Speaker, in the poultry subsector, under the pilot phase of the Ghana Broiler Revitalization Program, which was launched in July 2014, a total of 650,000 birds were raised, processed, and sold. This created 350 direct jobs and 7,800 indirect jobs for poultry farmers and the young people along the poultry value chain. In response to my call for an increase in the local production of poultry and the reduction of high import dependency, a project technical committee was set up to work closely with EDIF to support poultry production and processing. From 2014 to date, EDIF has approved a total of 14,972 Ghana cedis for 14 farming companies, associations, including the Greater Accra Poultry Farmers Association, the Doma Poultry Farmers Association, and the Bole District Poultry Farmers Association. Under the Ghana Commercial Agricultural Program, GCAP, we are working to support large-scale production of maize and soya bean to feed the poultry industry. When the program is fully operational, maize and soya bean for livestock feed can be supplied at a cheaper rate for the benefit of Ghanaian poultry farmers. Mr. Speaker, 40% reduction in poultry imports. Government's policy of 40% reduction in poultry imports, which is currently underway, is creating thousands of jobs in the Greater Accra, Ashanti, and Brong-Ahafo regions in the short term. EDIF is also enjoined to speed up disbursements to the poultry sector in order to boost their production. I've tasked the new Minister for Food and Agriculture to take stringent measures to ensure that the policy is strictly implemented. And I'm once again calling upon the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority to join hands with GAPOHA and the Ministry of Food and Agriculture to ensure strict compliance with the rules and directives on this matter. Mr. Speaker, government is supporting the establishment of a shrimp project to promote processing and production for export. The project will start in June this year with production of shrimp fingerlings, monko, laboratories, fish feed factory, packing plant, production ponds, processing and marking facilities, which will be located in the Greater Accra, Volta, and Eastern regions. The project will create 76 direct and indirect jobs, and the production is projected at 76,000 direct and indirect jobs, and the production is projected at 30,000 metric tons, and projected export revenue is expected to be between $60 million to $200 million. Mr. Speaker, this government is implementing the biggest infrastructure development program in our country's recent history. So much has been committed to delivering social and economic infrastructure in a relatively short span of time. Mr. Speaker, for decades, our people have had to cope with an unacceptably huge gap between what is required and what exists in terms of infrastructure. Aging, dilapidated, and non-existent infrastructure has slowed down our economic progress. The World Bank estimates that Ghana suffers an infrastructural financing deficit of about $1.5 billion a year. Modern and expansive infrastructure lays down the building blocks for a more efficient and robust economy, spurring growth, enhancing the quality of life and living conditions of our people, optimizing critical human development indicators, removing protracted sources of suffering for our people, and creating jobs for the multitude of artisans, professionals, whose livelihoods are guaranteed by working on such transformational projects. Mr. Speaker, the masons, carpenters, welders, steel benders, painters, plumbers, stylers, architects, draftsmen, quantity surveyors, civil engineers, electricians, glaziers, operators, drivers, laborers, and others who are engaged by contractors to work on these projects, as well as the food vendors, earn income through the work they do. These incomes represent the money that we're putting in the pocket of Ghanaians to enhance their lives and those of their dependents. Mr. Speaker, the manufacturers and suppliers of building and construction material from whom purchases are made earn money to sustain and expand their businesses and pay their employees. Mr. Speaker, the policy of an aggressive expansion in our infrastructure, as captured in our manifesto of 2012, cannot therefore be viewed through the narrow prism of brick and mortar provision. It must be viewed within the wider context of the socio-economic benefits that will come out of it. Mr. Speaker, in the water sector, total water production and distribution system available in all the 52 years of our nationhood prior to 2009 was only adequate to meet the needs of approximately 52% of our population, or approximately 14 million of our current numbers of about 27 million. This meant that a staggering 13 million people suffered the deprivation of not having access to clean drinking water. Mr. Speaker, in the more remote parts of our country, the total lack of potable water meant that our citizens had to risk drinking water that likely carried waterborne diseases. Some of the water sources were shared with their cattle and other livestock. Mr. Speaker, this situation had far-reaching ramifications for the general health and well-being of a large section of our people. Mr. Speaker, since my last appearance before this August House, a total of 77.5 million gallons of water per day has been added to the national water production stock. Following the coming on stream of such water projects as the Kpong Water Expansion Project, Phase 1, the Kpong Water Intake Project, the Accra Tema Metropolitan Water Supply Project, the Teshi Nungwa Water Desalination Project, as well as the Nsawam Esachiri 5 Towns Water Project, Mampong Barikesi, and other small town water projects. Mr. Speaker, the effect of this intervention is that out of the 10 million or so Ghanaians who were deprived of water, 4 million of them living in hundreds of communities currently have been given access to safe drinking water. There are many more water projects dotted across the country which are nearing completion. Mr. Speaker, these include Akimodan, Akwetia, Winneba, Konongo, Kumawu, Kwawu, Wa, North Tongu, Adaklu Anyigbe, and the urban and peri-urban and scores of small-town water projects. Mr. Speaker, the completion of these projects will increase water coverage for our people to about 85%, which translates into 7 million out of the 10 million formerly water-starved people as of 2009. Mr. Speaker, these are not just statistics. These are real people. These are your siblings. These are your friends. And these are the future leaders of this country. Mr. Speaker, 7 million Ghanaians, including an entire generation that had never seen water flow through their taps at home since they were born. And if you can believe it, Mr. Speaker, there was a time when too many, like Madam Naomi Apiakurang, a school teacher, Mr. Speaker, evidence-based learning. Evidence-based learning. Mr. Speaker, this particular woman is significant. This one is significant. Listen, because of where she comes from. Madam Naomi Apiakurang is a school teacher at the Chebi Islamic Primary School. Mr. Speaker, it didn't matter as much as it does today. As I said, Naomi, who is present in Parliament today, and many others, are living testimonies to the benefits being derived from the 1.5 million gallon per day 5 towns water project in Chebi, Osenase, Enyinam, Apedja, and Kwabing. Mr. Speaker, and I had the honor of joining the Ochinhene Osajifo Amwetia to commission this particular project, so I know what I'm talking about. Mr. Speaker, this is a story that I'm very sure the Honorable Samuel Atiachian will corroborate. Mr. Speaker, because evidence-based learning, Atachia, I know he will corroborate this story. Because, Mr. Speaker, water was a daily challenge for the people of this area. Water was a daily challenge for the people of this area. Mr. Speaker, Naomi lives in Chebi with her 3 children, and she recounts her difficulties in accessing clean drinking water prior to the inauguration of the new water treatment plant. You see, the old treatment plant was designed to treat much less turbid water in those days, when if you dropped a pin in the famous River Birim, you could look and see the pin at the bottom of the river. The water was so pure. Over the years, the activities of illegal miners, a problem that is not limited to Chebi alone. And let me be frank, it is not limited to Chebi alone. I'm just talking about the water. A problem that is not limited to Chebi alone, but is in other areas as well, has physically changed the properties of the fresh water from the River Birim, rendering the old water treatment plant essentially useless because it was not designed to sieve the increasing quantities of mud that it had to process with every passing year. Mr. Speaker, fortunately, this situation has been resolved to provide the people of Chebi, Osenase, Enyinam, Apedja, and Kwabing potable water through the implementation of the 5 towns water project, which has the superior and efficient mechanism to effectively process the turbid water. Mr. Speaker, for years, the national housing deficit has continued to widen without commensurate investment to bridge it. The lack of adequate public housing has had serious effects on many families and households who have had to pay exorbitant amounts in rent just to secure a place to lay their heads. Mr. Speaker, urgent interventions were therefore required to make affordable housing available. Through both direct investments and collaboration with the private sector, we are currently on course to deliver over 12,500 housing units, which represents the biggest investment in this sector by any government in recent history. Mr. Speaker, they include the following. The Saglemi housing project at Pram Pram in Greater Accra is expected to bring on 5,000 housing units. Mr. Speaker, the first 1,500 units of this project will be ready in a few months. Mr. Speaker, the Nyamidua Estates at Kong, this project being executed in collaboration with SETI Realty Estates, is designed to provide another 5,000 housing units. The first phase of this project is almost ready. Mr. Speaker, the Keta Sea Defense Resettlement Housing Project, 618 out of the 836 houses have been completed and are ready for occupation by a corresponding number of families affected by the Keta Sea erosion. Mr. Speaker, SNIT housing projects. Construction is currently ongoing on 608 flats at Dunkona, near Weja in the Gar South municipality, and 240 flats at Sakumono in the Tema metropolis. The Security Services Housing Project in Tema, the first phase comprising of 160 housing units under this project, have been completed. Those units are currently occupied by security personnel. The second phase of 368 housing units is due for completion in a few months for occupancy by personnel of the Navy. Mr. Speaker, the new Labadi Villas housing project under this scheme, decent housing units have been completed and are currently occupied by the military personnel in Accra. Mr. Speaker, the Adenta Regeneration Project is popularly called SHC Gardens. Under this project, 72 housing units are nearing completion for middle-income households at Adenta. Similar projects will be started soon at Latebi Okoshi Kaneshi and Kanda in Accra and North Efiekuma in Sekondi Tema metropolis. Mr. Speaker, the Tema Development Corporation Housing Project, the TDC, is also constructing a total of 148 units in communities 1, 22, and 23. 68 of these units have already been completed for occupancy. Mr. Speaker, police housing units at Teba, Community 3, under a PPP arrangement, decent housing has been provided to police personnel. Additionally, government has handed over the 4,000 plus affordable housing units commenced in President John Ajekum Kufuor's period in office to the SNIT and State Housing Corporation for completion. This includes the Asokore Mampong housing project that you were asking about. Mr. Speaker, I have had cause to caution state institutions that look on while their land is being encroached on only to carry out painful demolitions. This is unacceptable. Ghanaians invest a lot of money to construct those houses. It doesn't help to watch encroachment happen over a period of 10 years and turn around and demolish the properties. Mr. Speaker, one such demolition took place in Ajay Kojo, and following a petition I received from the MP for Tema West, Irina Toshi Ado, I had a meeting convened with the Chief of Staff and the Chief Executive of TDC to address the issue of the plight of the people affected by the demolition at Ajay Kojo. Mr. Speaker, since 2009, we have added 3,772 kilometers to Ghana's motorable road network. The 3 billion Cocoa Roads Improvement Program, which is being rolled out around the country, has added additional resources and impetus to the road improvement program. Mr. Speaker, permit me to enumerate the most significant road projects on a region-by-region basis. Mr. Speaker, Greater Accra, road works in the Greater Accra region include the famous Kwame Nkrumah interchange. Mr. Speaker, it includes the Ring Road flyover, the Awoshi Pokwasi Road, the Gifford Road and Bema Camp Roads, the Spintex Road bypass, the Boundary Gulf House Road, the Teshi Nungwa Sakumono Beach Road, and the Ashaman Road. Mr. Speaker, additional resurfacing works are being executed in Ningo Prampram, Tema, Ashaman, Nungwa, Teshi, La, and Accra Central. There are also the ongoing overnight asphaltic overlay works on principal streets in Accra. Mr. Speaker, Preparatory works for the redevelopment of the Accra-Tema motorway into a 6-lane road with 4 interchanges is ongoing. Ajay Kojo, Abattoir, Teshi Link, and Tema Roundabout will all commence soon. Mr. Speaker, in Eastern Region, roads completed or being worked on include the Suhuma Samankesi Road, Somanya Road, Town Roads, Chebi Town Roads, Kwafu Krom Apedra Road, and Sawameburi, Nkoko Bypass, Nkoko Atibie, Adeso and Samankesi, and Sawama Samankesi, Osinasi Akwetia, Kede Town Roads, Apedra Chebi, Koforido Abonso, Suhuma Samankesi, and Yinebri Mani Railway Station Subriso, Abu Kofi Eje, Akwasi Subriso Tronai, Labi Krom, Bedu Krom, Shiapiasi Behinasi Junction, Antasu Anuma, Noyam Winso, Amoana Praso, Achim Seksha Bekwase, Mangwasi Kukwa, Chia Brenase Ofwase. Mr. Speaker, too many to mention. Mr. Speaker, let me have a little. Mr. Speaker, the Adomi Bridge rehabilitation project has been completed and has been opened for public use. Mr. Speaker, in the Volta region, Eastern Corridor project is progressing steadily. The Asikumba Junction Have, Dodi Pepesu to Nkwanta to Tidamanko sections are all under construction. Other projects in the region include Ketekrachi to Buya, Ho to Fome, Kwando to Rara Dambai, Bami Jolokwita Kweje, Ho Adidome, Metrikasa Haveji, Golokwati Wili, Hohoi, Kwando Alavanyo, Kwembe Nkonya Gbiwebe, Aveti Logwa, Alakweti Amkwega, Akukome Aveti, Dalive Agotage, Dove Junction to Mepe, Dove Junction to Aveime, Dodi Pepesu, Mensa Kroma Suboy, Dapa Junction Papawie, Ahamanso, Tajevu Daviego Junction, Shia Honuta Kweje Town Roads, Ho Town Roads, Keta Town Roads, Hohoi Town Roads. including the access road into the University of Health and Allied Sciences. All these projects are ongoing. Mr. Speaker, Kwando Town Roads, Dwapong Fojoku, Akuse Dam Road, Sogakope Bato, these have all been completed, while Dwapong Abutia Sokode Road is ongoing. Mr. Speaker, in the Western region, work is being done on the following. Kansarodo bypass. This is a very important road because it will ease congestion in the Twin City. Mr. Speaker, 20 kilometers of asphalt overlay has been completed in Sekondi Takoradi. Asphalt overlay of Takwa, Axim, and Elubu Town roads, Dabuasi and Sefiri also, Pristia, Asankragwa, and Echi Town roads, Aguna Junction, Elubo, Takwa Bogoso, Ayamfuri, Asawinso. Mr. Speaker, others are under construction include Sefi Bekwai to Eshim, Sefi Awiaso to Akontombra. I remember Akontombra particularly because during the campaign, it was raining heavily when I arrived there. And the chief and his people were standing in the rain and waiting for me at about 1 a.m. And I asked the chief why he didn't go home and leave our party people so that I do the rally. And he said no, he wanted to see me because there's something on his heart. And that there's just one thing, if I become president, he wants me to do the Akontombra Road. I'm happy that today the Akontombra Road is being done. Mr. Speaker, Benchema Junction, Osei Kojokrom Road, Dwabusu Bodi Road, Anyinabrim Sui Bodi Junction Road. Mr. Speaker, Prestia Samreboy, Enchi Dadieso, Adwafwa Osei Kojokrom, Boako Sankori, Sushen Susubrisu Daboa Krom, Kwa Suo Jankofa, John Krom Attack Krom. Mr. Speaker, work has also commenced on the 51-kilometer Ejunase Atobiaso, Dwabusu Dadieso, and Todompem Daboasi rural roads. The construction of 10 kilometers of oil and gas enclave roads along the pipeline, including the new Amazure Bridge, is ongoing. Mr. Speaker, Central Region. Central Region. Work is progressing impressively on the Kaswa interchange. And I know there are some political quantity surveyors who can just look at the project and tell whether it's expensive or it's cheap. Mr. Speaker, Kaswa interchange is ongoing. Completion of work on this interchange will bring great relief to travelers on this road, which has been the source of severe frustration and irritation for the traveling public as a result of vehicular traffic. Also in the Central Region, the following roads are underway. Upgrading of road works in the Cape Coast, Dunkwa Onofin, Winneba, and Aguna Swedru townships. Asphalt overlay in Cape Coast, Dunkwa, Salt Pond, and Mankesim are ongoing. Construction of the Mankesim Abura Dunkwa Road, Dunkwa Trifupraso, Asin Road, Amanfo Nyakrom, Unkum, Asin Yankumasi, Senchim, Asin Trifupraso, Esiam Roads, Breman Asikuma, Amanfo Pom. Work is also progressing steadily on Ekwamiasi Offabil, Sanko Krekrom, Ojobi Akoti, Nkojo Asempaneye, Duakwa Akwakwa, Phase 1, and Dominasi Subinsu roads. Mr. Speaker, many feeder roads are also being done in the Central Region. Bodjoase Aponchekra Road. And we're also going to do the road from Kaswa through Bodjoase to Swedru. That is a very important road. Work will start next month on the Kaswa Bodjoase Swedru Road. Mr. Speaker, Adawukwa Ajato Road, Bewanum Adawukwa Road, Bodjoase Among Krom Road, Ahentia Busumabra Junction, Kwekrom, Papasi number 1, Odotom, Kwabonzi Labi, J. Krodria, Bontrasi Dasum, and many more. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, and in the Ashanti region, Sofo line interchange is almost complete. And it has, Mr. Speaker, it has been financed Mr. Speaker, it has been financed from Government of Ghana budget. Works are ongoing on the Bekwai and New Edubiase town roads. The Asimpraso Bekwai Road is currently in use following its completion last year. Mr. Speaker, major roads such as Bomfa Junction to Asiwa, Bekwai, Ampaha to Asiwa, Kumawu to Temati, Drobonso, and Ajinkwanso and Numabu Jadem roads are progressing steadily. The new Edubiasi Anumabu Amentia Aboa Sewa Obuasi Junction road is ongoing. Mr. Speaker, Anwian Kwanta Adumasi Trabom Tuasi road sections are also being worked on and are on schedule. Mr. Speaker, in the Bronga-Hafu region, the Nsoko Namasi section of the Winchi Sampa Road is ongoing. Berekum Sampa, Atebu Bokwami Danso Kojokrom. Mr. Speaker, Goso Hukom Junction. Mr. Speaker, Prank Kentampo, and Doma Ahinkro Nkran Kwanta Road. If you remember, this is a road that has been there from Tete. It has been engineered. Mr. Speaker, also under construction are the Tiobodom Ofuman Wenchi Road. This is a very important road because if you are coming from the Techiman Kintampo Road and you want to go to Wenchi, instead of coming to Techiman and going this way, you go through Ofuman. At Tiobodom, you turn right to Ofuman and you come out at Wenchi. You know, we are doing that road. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, this is one of the most critical roads, and it has been there since. Enga will say Kajablema. This is Gambia number 2 Chremasu Road. Very important road. President Rawlings did it to a certain point, and when he left office, it stayed there till now. Mr. Speaker, another one, Tepa Junction, Gosu Road. Kofi Bedu Chrome, don't worry, I'm wrong for now. Kofi Bedu Chrome Junction Road to Doma Hinkro, to Kofi Bedu Chrome Junction to Kofi Bedu Chrome, Doma Hinkro to Nkran Kwanta, Doma Atebubu Kwame Danso Kojo Chrome Road, Bechiman Techimantia Road, Akumadan Onkranza Jema Road, under Onkranza Jema Road, Yamfo Asuadere Road, Asumura Tipo Chrome Road, Akrodie Kranchiamwa Road. I mean, so many of them. The following are also on course. Dadia Swaba Chebidi Doma Hinkro Road, Bebianiha, Aswadere Junction to Aswadere, Antrefo to Danyami Road, Sunyani, we are doing the outer ring road. We are doing the outer ring road to ease congestion in Sunyani town. We are doing Techiman town roads, Onkranza town roads, Gosu town roads, Doma Hinkro town roads. Onkranza is the first lady's hometown. Yeah, we are doing the town roads. They also deserve good roads. Mr. Speaker, in the northern region, my region, I inaugurated the 147-kilometer Fufuso Solar Road last year. Mr. Speaker, as for this road, I can testify myself. Because when my father was a schoolboy, he used to walk from Bole to Tamale to go to school. And that road from colonial time has been there. From colonial time, never engineered. Mr. Speaker, last year we commissioned this road, very beautiful road. It was financed by the African Development Bank. Mr. Speaker, it was successfully commissioned after completion last year. Significant progress has been made on the Bupe Tamale Road, and work has started on the Bunsunu Daboya Road. Mr. Speaker, the following roads are at various stages of completion: the Daboya Mankragu Road, the Otu Damanko Bimbila Yendi Road, the Yendi Nakwandiri Road, that is part of the Eastern Corridor, the Nyankpala Tolong Road, the Tamale Salaga Makango Road has been awarded. Cherponi Yendi, Mr. Speaker, Yendi, Tamale, and Mr. Speaker, work is ongoing on Tamale Kumbungu. Mr. Speaker, work is also going to start, and for those of you who know Northern Region and Tamale area, work is going to start on the Tamale Karaga Gushegu Road. It's been awarded on contract. Over the last 2 years, 30 kilometers of roads have been rehabilitated in the Tamale municipality, with work on another 25 kilometers underway. Mr. Speaker, roads in Yendi, Savlugu, Damango, and Bole have also been worked on. We're also in negotiation, and those from Northern Region, this is important, we're also in negotiation for funding for the construction of a bridge over the White Volta between Daboya and Tolong. This will allow easy access from Tamale straight to Daboya onto the Sola Fufuso Road. Mr. Speaker, in the Upper East region, the following have either been completed or on course. Napo. 10 kilometers of roads in the Bolgatanga municipality, Navrongo and Boku town roads, Navrongo Tumu, Bolgatanga Bongo, Winkongo Tongo, Navrongo Tono, and Mr. Speaker, Queiroz Galvao was working on the Tamale Airport. They have substantially finished the work on the Tamale Airport. And so we've asked them to demobilize part of their construction gang onto the Bolga-Boku Road. I'm sure Ayarga and all our MPs from that corridor, Pusiga, and everybody would be very happy about this. Mr. Speaker, the Misiga Kulungungu Road and the Sandima Wiesi Road are also under construction. In the Upper West region, 7 kilometers of town roads have been completed in the Wa municipality. The Wa campus of the University for Development Studies has also seen improvement in the road network. Other road works in the region include Tumu town roads, Nadoli, Laura to Hamile, Wa to Bulenga, Wa to Dorimong, and then construction of steel bridges from Yala, Sombisi, Tantale, Tuvu, Tuvu, Lesabisi, Wa, Waliwali, Jefisi, Golu, Gonuk, Perisi are all ongoing. Many of these roads have been in a bad state for many years. There are a good number of roads crying for attention. But, Mr. Speaker, as you know, it is not physically possible for us to commence work on all roads in Ghana at the same time. I therefore urge Ghanaians to exercise patience. As we finish with these roads, we will commence work on other equally important roads. Mr. Speaker, this is very important. As a result of directives I gave to the Roads and Highways Ministry to ensure that projects financed by the Government of Ghana budget are awarded to local contractors, I am proud to announce that roughly 95% of contractors working on Government of Ghana awarded roads and Cocoa Roads Improvement Program are Ghanaian. Mr. Speaker, I want to place emphasis there. 95% of contractors working on Government of Ghana funded roads and the Cocoa Roads Improvement Program are Ghanaian. Mr. Speaker, one of such young Ghanaian contractors is Mr. Emmanuel Abuaji, evidence-based. Abuaji is at the back there. And this is very interesting. It's very interesting. Mr. Speaker, he represents a new crop of young and dynamic Ghanaian road contractors. His firm is Manap Company Limited, and he employs 73 people. He has 73 workers, and is working on the Bekwai Town roads under the Cocoa Improvement Roads program. Mr. Speaker, he started his construction company in 2009, and he's only 32 years old. He graduated from the University of Science and Technology with a Bachelor of Science in Agric Engineering, and then he also did petroleum engineering. Mr. Speaker, the interesting thing is he's a youth member of the MPP and was a polling station chairman for MPP. Mr. Speaker, So Sourcing is a polling station chairman of MPP. Mr. Speaker, this is a government that opens the opportunities of this country to everybody without political prejudice. Mr. Speaker, and let me say, I cut the sword for the Ashanti segment of the Cocoa Town roads in New Edubiase and in Bekwai. And the site where we cut the sword for the Cocoa Roads program in Ashanti at Bekwai was on the site of Emmanuel Abuaje. And I must say, even young as he is, he does a very fantastic job. Mr. Speaker, Ghanaian contractors can do as well as foreign contractors. And I want to make sure that we raise indigenous Ghanaian construction firms that will not only do roads in Ghana, but in future would also go to other countries and construct roads for them. Mr. Speaker, through this massive road construction effort, we're creating thousands of jobs for our young people who have been engaged by the local contractors working on these roads. It also means, Mr. Speaker, what this also means is that the profit that is earned from these public works is retained and invested in this country. Mr. Speaker, listen to this. As of 2012, there were only 6 asphalt plants in Ghana, and these 6 asphalt plants were mostly owned by foreign construction companies. Today, as I speak, currently, there are 22 asphalt plants in Ghana, and the majority are owned by Ghanaian contractors. I don't know how many of you know Swedru Contractors, who did the Accra and Sawam Road. He had an asphalt plant. Since then, no Ghanaian had owned an asphalt plant. Only 6 foreign companies had asphalt plants. Under our watch, 22 Ghanaian companies have acquired asphalt plants and are carrying out asphalt works in this country. Mr. Speaker, in order to address the perennial problem of the debts owed to contractors, a portion of the energy sector levy, which you so graciously passed, will be used to defray about 323 million Ghana cedis owed to contractors by the Road Fund. This will also enable the Road Fund to amortize another 300 million Ghana cedi loan from SNIT that this House approved in 2008 and 2010. Additionally, it will enable the Road Fund to scale up road maintenance and repair to ensure longer lifespan for our roads. Mr. Speaker, the massive investment we are making in the road construction sector is making life easy for our people. It is facilitating the movement of people as well as goods and services. It is boosting economic activity and giving motorists greater options while cutting down travel time significantly. Mr. Speaker, today it is not unusual to go to bed in the evening having driven on a bad road, only to wake up in the morning to find that that road has been re-asphalted and covered with beautiful road markings. Mr. Speaker, many have also left for work in the morning, driving on a poor road, only to return from work in the evening to find their road redone beautifully. Mr. Speaker, the saving for motorists in terms of money that would have been used to fix broken down vehicles due to bad roads cannot be underestimated. The savings for commercial drivers who can now ply certain roads multiple times because they can move quicker and more easily on the smooth roads can also not be underestimated. Mr. Speaker, if you like, just ask Mohamed Hassan, evidence-based, who has been driving since 2004, and he plies, ask Mohamed Hassan, who has been driving 2004, he plies the Wa to Tamale route. He drives a bus, a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter bus. Mr. Speaker, before the completion of the Sola Fufuso Road, Mohamed says he and other drivers used to spend between 8 and 9 hours to travel from Wa to Tamale. With the road completed now, Mr. Speaker, excited Mohamed says that he now spends a maximum of 4.5 hours doing the same journey. Mr. Speaker, it has made traveling across the 2 regional capitals much safer. And besides, his bus is subject to less maintenance. Mr. Speaker, Ghana has the most extensive engineered roads in West Africa. It is the truth. Ghana has the most extensive engineered roads in West Africa. I intend, by the time I leave office in 2020, Mr. Speaker, I said Ghana has the most engineered roads in West Africa. Listen to the intention. And I intend, by the time I leave office in 2020, for Ghana to be among the countries with the best road network in Africa. Mr. Speaker, let me appeal to drivers to strictly observe road safety regulations, to save lives and halt the carnage on our roads. It was heart-wrenching for me to see the severe injuries sustained by survivors of the Metro Mass bus accident. Many of them were children. And Mr. Speaker, I wish to salute the doctors and the staff, especially of the Kintampo Hospital, who on that day were overwhelmed, and also to salute the staff of the other health facilities who helped to save the lives of the few survivors. Mr. Speaker, pedestrian and passenger-related fatalities account for nearly 63% of all road traffic-related deaths. The National Road Safety Commission is strengthening the Speak Up Passenger campaign launched in 2015 and putting in place a new campaign on pedestrian safety. It is implementing a plan to construct and install 968 lollipop crossing stands at strategic locations to aid the use of road, especially by children and vulnerable adults. We will continue to support the MTTU with logistics such as speed radar guns and alcohol meters in order that they can keep our roads safe. Mr. Speaker, as part of its mandate of promoting good driving standards and use of roadworthy vehicles on our roads, the Driver Vehicle and Licensing Authority automated 15 of its offices to improve the delivery of service to the public. The authority is in the process of digitizing vehicle records to pave the way for other stakeholders, such as the MTTD and insurance companies, to have real-time access to vehicle records. Mr. Speaker, we've chalked success in our drive to aggressively modernize and expand our transportation system. Today, Ghanaians and foreigners alike traveling through the Kotoka International Airport's Terminal 2 transit. Mr. Speaker, today, Ghanaians and foreigners alike traveling through Kotoka International Airport's Terminal 2 arrival lounge transit through this beautiful refurbished arrival hall that meets all international standards. Mr. Speaker, the new arrival hall at the Kotoka International Airport gives travelers a most favorable impression of our country. Work is currently ongoing on an ultra-modern international terminal building to be known as Terminal 3. It is designed to accommodate 5 million passengers a year, and it will process 1,250 passengers an hour. Mr. Speaker, it will have 6 boarding bridges. And when I talk about boarding bridges, I mean the air bridges. You are not going to get down and walk into a bus and be driven to a stairs and climb up a stairs. You are going to walk through modern air bridges straight into the plane, Mr. Speaker. And I'm sure my friends on the other side would appreciate that. Mr. Speaker, it will also have a large retail area and will have 3 main business lounges, among others. The Turkish construction company has taken possession of the site and has already started working feverishly. Mr. Speaker, I will have the honor to be joined on the 1st of March 2016 by the Turkish President Tayyip Recep Erdogan to cut the sword for the official commencement of work on this monumental aviation project. Mr. Speaker, what this will do is it will surely make Ghana the preferred hub for transit passengers in West Africa. And what you should note, and I'm going to emphasize this, I'm pleased to note that this project is being financed by from credit raised by the Ghana Airport Company on its own balance sheet, with no sovereign guarantee or any charge to the public debt stock. Mr. Speaker, this is in line with our new public debt management strategy that compels public-owned companies to borrow using their own financial muscle. Mr. Speaker, to further enhance the operations of the airport and cater for the needs of importers and exporters, construction of a new state-of-the-art import, export, and transit cargo center is ongoing. There's an office complex, aircraft ramp handling, and this project is nearing completion. The center will be equipped with the latest state-of-the-art cargo handling equipment, including automated storage and retrieval systems, accommodating 2,800 pallet positions, mini shipment tower, cold stores, bullion stores, X-ray scanners, and the highest level of security control, CCTV monitoring for safety and security of goods and counter-narcotics purposes. Mr. Speaker, work is progressing steadily on converting the Kumasi and Tamale airports into international airports. Mr. Speaker, last year, work was completed on the first phase of the Kumasi International Airport upgrade. And that involved resurfacing the runway, installing runway lights, and then installing an instrument landing system. Mr. Speaker, it has eased air travel to Kumasi, and many of my colleagues and friends here are very happy about being able to catch the last flight. And as I said last year, to be able to get home on time to meet the fufu still hot, you know. Mr. Speaker, Napo uses that flight a lot. Mr. Speaker, work on the Tamale International Airport will also soon be completed. This will inject greater flexibility into air travel, and the two airports, Kumasi and Tamale, will become growth poles around which the economy of the middle and northern parts of our country would expand. Mr. Speaker, work will also be completed on the aerodrome at Ho to give Ghanaians more air travel options. They prefer to call it Ho Airport, at the airport at Ho. Mr. Speaker, also the procurement process for the temporary terminal to allow commercial flights to commence operations into WA is underway. So for the Upper West MPs, procurement has started for the construction of a temporary terminal to allow the airstrip to accept commercial flights into WA. There's a land that has been identified for an airport that we shall construct later. Mr. Speaker, in the maritime sector, the expansion works on both Tema and Takoradi harbors are moving steadily. The Phase 1 expansion works in Takoradi are expected to be completed in May this year. The expansion of these two ports will create approximately 10,000 new jobs for our people. The following projects are also ongoing at the Tema port: the bulk cargo handling jetty, which will provide a jetty for offloading of bulk cargo, clinker, cement, and related products to free the other berths for other commercial cargo vessels to reduce their waiting time. The development of 4 container terminals at the port, including an access road from the port to the motorway, an expansion of the Accra-Tema motorway from 4 lanes to 6 lanes, the reconstruction of the net mending wharf at the Tema fishing harbour to support the artisanal fishing industry and to enhance environmentally safe fish handling. An even bigger expansion project aimed at increasing the size of Tema Port to 4 times its current size to respond to increasing container volumes will begin shortly. Mr. Speaker, the US $1.5 billion project will be the largest private sector investment in the transport sector in recent years and will result in the provision of a modern harbor with state-of-the-art equipment that is able to take on increasing trade vital for economic development. And I must add that this financing is being done by Meridian Port Services, MPS. The Ghana Urban Transport Project, which is being implemented by the Ministry of Transport in collaboration with the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, is expected to provide scheduled passenger services along some designated routes within the Accra metropolis. Private sector transport operators will own and manage the buses for these routes. Government is assisting them to procure buses for the bus rapid transit system to improve on its service delivery. Dedicated bus lanes are being constructed. The first one from Amasamang to the Central Business District has been completed. This is a lane that will be used only by buses to ensure the provision of regular and efficient mass transit services for passengers and also to reduce congestion. Mr. Speaker, from the mid-1990s, when we began the ICT revolution, Ghana has attained an enviable mobile and fixed telephony subscription record of 33 million mobile subscribers as at August 2015, as compared to 11 million in 2008. Mobile and fixed internet subscribers have also reached 17,159,000. Last year, we established the National Emergency Response Number 112, which allows callers in distress to access any of the emergency services. It proved extremely useful during the period of the June 3rd fire and flood disaster. We've also established the government online portal, the e-services portal, to provide government services online. This means we are almost at the point of conducting paperless cabinet sessions and other paperless transactions. Indeed, at our last cabinet sitting, I indicated that I was going to give a deadline when hard copies of cabinet files will no longer be tolerated in the cabinet room. Very soon, distinguished members of this House will also be conducting paperless parliamentary sessions. Oh, you started? Thank you. Mr. Speaker, that's good. Mr. Speaker, with expansion in mobile and fixed broadband, including 4G LTE, the recently auctioned 800 MHz spectrum, the establishment of the National Data Center, among others, Ghana's digital economy has been strategically positioned to blossom. We are witnessing more software being developed locally by our youth. Cash is finding its way gradually into the electronic realm through the use of mobile money and other initiatives. More and more digital jobs are being created with every click of the mouse, and that is why we must continue to train more girls in ICT to ensure digital inclusion. Last year, for the pilot program, we trained 900 girls in the Volta region in ICT. This year, 1,000 more are going to be trained in other parts of the country. Mr. Speaker, a growing telecom industry requires a dynamic regulatory framework which ensures customer satisfaction, good return on investment, and adequate participation of the private sector. To this end, in August 2014, Cabinet approved 4 policies to establish the Mobile Virtual Networking Operator License, the Interconnect Clearinghouse License, the International Wholesale Carrier License, and the Unified Telecom License. Mr. Speaker, the canker of corruption and its negative impact on development is well known to us. It continues to pose a big threat to every society in both developed and developing nations. While the canker spares no country, its effects are felt more in developing and poor countries as it exacerbates poverty and hinders development. It eats into the moral fabric of society and undermines the foundations of democracy and good governance. Mr. Speaker, corruption is a disease which, if left unchecked, can choke off and kill a nation. It is an enemy of progress and development and a threat to peace and security. Mr. Speaker, it is therefore an obligation on all of us to mobilize our efforts in the fight to eradicate corruption. Mr. Speaker, we have tackled corruption with determination and fortitude in an effort to stamp out systemic indiscipline in the fabric of public and social service. We've refused to bury our heads in the sand like the ostrich or to adopt a defensive posture. The indifference of the past has given way to a refreshing blast of sunlight, a proven potent and enduring disinfectant for the canker of corruption. Mr. Speaker, this firm position and commitment has heightened public hope and confidence that the fight against corruption is winnable. Mr. Speaker, we decided in 2009 that a 10-year action plan that addresses corruption in a more strategic, scientific, and sustainable manner is the right way to go, and that the plan should be integrated into national development planning. The nation was unanimous in support of the National Anti-Corruption Action Plan, and that is partly why the nation was united through our honorable representatives here in Parliament in adopting the NACAP. Following its adoption, I have inaugurated the High-Level Implementation Committee as one of the structures to facilitate the implementation of the plan. The committee is responsible for providing strategic policy direction and advice to implementing bodies and assisting TRAJ and NDPC in monitoring and coordinating the implementation of NACAP. The committee consists of representatives from key state institutions, the private sector, and civil society. Mr. Speaker, the progress report presented by the Acting Commissioner of TRAJ reveals that significant progress has been made in the first year of implementation of NACAP. Despite some challenges, government is determined to play its role under NACAP and will sanction heads of institutions that do not comply with the directives on the implementation of NACAP. Mr. Speaker, the country is doing its best to combat money laundering and terrorist financing after establishing the required legislative framework. 3 successful convictions involving money laundering have been secured, following continuous analysis of intelligence of over 200 suspicious transaction reports. In the case involving ghost names on the payroll of the National Service Scheme, the Attorney General has commenced the prosecution of a number of persons. 35 officials, including a former executive director and his deputy, have been arraigned before court, and 4 have already been convicted. Mr. Speaker, 130 others are being processed for court. 163 other officers, some of whose careers in the scheme spanned several governments and were neck deep in the fraudulent enterprise, have been dismissed. Following the passage of the Youth Employment Agency Act, we've taken measures to install strong systems to ensure probity, transparency, and accountability in that agency's work. Measures are being put in place to ensure that transactions that take place in the Youth Employment Agency are placed on electronic payment platforms. I have no doubt that these measures will strengthen the systems and procedures in the agency to avoid the recurrence of the challenges that its predecessor encountered. In the meantime, Mr. Speaker, over 50 million Ghana cedis has been recovered from the agency's debtors. Mr. Speaker, I share the sentiments and sometimes the impatience of the public concerning the pace at which some of the investigations are proceeding. But our commitment to constitutional governance and the rights of persons enjoin us to be patient with the judicial process. As I said last month, we cannot be adherents of constitutional democracy and be admirers of arbitrary justice. I wish to emphasize the commitment of my administration to expose and take action on allegations of corruption that are brought to our attention. Mr. Speaker, the new board and management of the Savannah Accelerated Development Authority have comprehensively addressed the concerns raised in the 2013 audit report regarding the use of their resources. Financial accounts of SADA from 2012 to date have been audited, and the 2014 accounts will be published as part of SADA's annual report. A comprehensive report on the audits, including recommendations to address financial malpractices, is ready and will be published in due course. In addition, an external independent body has conducted a comprehensive institutional assessment of SADA and steps outlined to strengthen the institution's performance and accountability. Last year, following concerns about the respraying and branding of 116 Metro mass transit buses, the Chief of Staff promptly asked the Attorney General to look into the matter. The Attorney General concluded that if proper procedures had been followed, the state would have been saved about 1.5 million Ghana cedis. The Chief of Staff subsequently directed the Attorney General to pursue the recovery of the excess amount. The contractor, following meetings with the Attorney General and without prejudice to their legal rights, agreed to refund the amount in 3 installments by the end of next month. Mr. Speaker, I am informed that the first installment of 300,000 Ghana cedis has been paid to the Attorney General's department. Mr. Speaker, as you would recall, an ace investigative journalist, Anas Arimiao Anas, conducted some underground investigations and presented my office with a petition accusing some judges and other judicial officers of corruption. As required by the Constitution, I referred the petition to the Chief Justice for investigation. On the recommendation of the Judicial Inquiry Panel, I approved the dismissal of 23 judges from the bench. Mr. Speaker, in this fight against corruption, there is a need for us to combine law enforcement with an approach that also emphasizes national integrity as an important component of NACAP. In connection with this, I take note of the role assigned to the Office of the President to institute a National Integrity Awards program to motivate honest people in the country. I'm determined to have the awards program established within the time frame prescribed by NACAP. The criteria will be developed for this important program, and it will be transparent and participatory. And I urge all of you honorable members to take an interest in it at the appropriate time and submit proposals to us to assist us institute the scheme. Mr. Speaker, we are working tirelessly to encourage citizens to report corruption without fear of victimization. Here again, the Anas expose and the debate surrounding it suggests that though there is a favorable and enabling environment for investigative journalism to thrive, robust measures need to further strengthen mechanisms for safe reporting of corruption, and crime must be put in place to give opportunity to inform on cases of corruption. Mr. Speaker, 10 persons have been convicted in relation to Anas's expose on smuggling of cocoa, while 2 were acquitted by the courts. The Attorney General and other relevant stakeholders are working together to bring the Witness Protection Bill to Parliament soon for your consideration. I also urge Parliament to expedite work on the Conduct of Public Officers Bill, which is currently before you in this House, and also the Right to Information Bill, which is also still in Parliament. Indeed, I think the Right to Information Bill, by the time it is passed, it will go down in the history of this country as the longest bill ever in legislation. Mr. Speaker, the Whistleblowers Amendment Bill, which is already before Parliament, I'm told will be passed soon. The anti-corruption and law enforcement agencies have meanwhile begun discussions on how to coordinate their activities in a manner that facilitates effective investigation and prosecution of corruption and crime. I'm happy to announce that the first in a series of citizens' complaint centers that I announced has been set up here in the nation's capital. The center is located in room 209 of the 2nd floor of the Public Services Commission building in the ministry's area. In addition to walk-ins, the center receives and processes voice complaints using hotlines and via its website, www.ghanacitizen.org. The Citizens Complaints Unit will collate data and will produce quarterly reports based on the type and nature and source of the complaint received. This report will also include recommended actions, resolution of complaints, as well as trend analysis. It is expected that reports by the unit will help promote the fight against corruption, as well as improve service delivery in the public sector. If it proves successful, the Citizens Complaints Unit will be replicated in all the regional capitals. District assemblies are also encouraged to establish their own units in their district capitals. Mr. Speaker, the sole Commissioner on Judgment Debt concluded his work and presented his report. Since then, a white paper has been published for implementation. The sole Commissioner's report reveals the weaknesses in our systems and also shows how some persons, in collusion with public officers, deliberately fleece government of hundreds of billions of Ghana cedis and in some cases US dollars. Even before the presentation of the report, the Attorney General, upon my directive, had commenced a robust defense of several cases of judgment debt. This action has paid off with a massive savings recorded. Mr. Speaker, in 2015 alone, the Attorney General, as a result of defending judgment debt cases, saved as much as $900 million in claims against the state. Mr. Speaker, these were successfully and effectively defended both locally and internationally. In domestic cases, Mr. Speaker, last year alone, the Attorney General's Department successfully resisted claims of over $100 million in our courts. Our greatest success in the fight against corruption must be based on preventing it. We must speed up the use of technology to remove much of the human discretion in our public service transactions. We must move from a cash-based society into a cashless one, where transactions are handled using electronic settlement platforms rather than carrying huge amounts of cash across town. I've discussed with the Governor of the Bank of Ghana and asked for a roadmap to achieve this target by the year 2020. There's a political risk that any government runs in facing up to corruption and fighting it. The paradox of exposure, where an open, transparent approach to fighting corruption leads to an erroneous impression that corruption is more pervasive and prevalent at a certain point than at another. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I'll go over that again because it's important. Mr. Speaker, I'll go over that again. There is a political risk that any government runs in facing up to corruption and fighting it. And that is the paradox of exposure, where an open, transparent approach to fighting corruption leads to an erroneous impression that corruption is more pervasive and prevalent at a certain point than another. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, this is a Pandora's box my government has opened, and we are determined never to shut it. Mr. Speaker, this is a risk my government has accepted to take and a challenge we are willing to confront. In this fight, concocted allegations and other salacious fabrications anonymously circulated on social media under the masthead of fake newspapers will not help the fight against corruption. Mr. Speaker, such concoctions rather make the fight against corruption difficult because you cannot tell truth from falsehood. Mr. Speaker, it hinders the fight against corruption and it makes it difficult to differentiate what is truth and what is political propaganda. Mr. Speaker, similarly, sweeping and generalized conclusions drawn on the basis of scanty and often misleading information ought to be guarded against. Corruption has serious implications for any society's advancement. And for that reason, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, corruption has serious implications for any society's advancement. And for that reason, the push against the canker cannot and must not be ceded to those whose only motivation is electoral advantage. Mr. Speaker, I wish to strongly restate the political will of my government, working with you, honorable members, with our internal and external partners in the fight against corruption. Mr. Speaker, good governance and the fight against corruption rest not only on the executive and the general public, but also on the legislature and the judiciary. In the course of their duties, the second and third arms of government are called upon to perform tasks that will advance the frontiers of democratic practice in our nation. However, as I observed earlier, the image of the judiciary was brought to a near all-time low with the exposures made by Anas. As nerve-wracking as this incident was, it also presented a story of hope. Hope in the fact that there were a significant number of judges who not only threatened to throw Anas out, but threatened to call the police on him. It shows that we have many judges on the bench who are upright and have great integrity. Mr. Speaker, I wish to commend Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice, for her courage and determination in dealing with this matter as required by law. The Chief Justice and her team have worked hard to try to restore the image of the institution. And I wish to assure that we will work with her to ensure that we implement any other structural, institutional, or human reforms required to make the judiciary an institution Ghanaians can be proud of. Mr. Speaker, the provision of adequate security to Parliament and honourable members is of utmost priority to government. The recent murder of our honourable colleague raises again the discussion in respect of what the suitable accommodation for an MP should be, concentrated or scattered. Concentrated accommodation in, say, a parliamentary village ensures better protection and security. Scattered is more difficult to secure. With respect, Mr. Speaker, Parliament, I know, is working with the security agencies to identify where MPs live across the city so that increased police patrols can ensure and guarantee your security. With respect to the security of the precincts of Parliament, I have authorized the release of the Western Gate security post of the State House to Parliament for use as a police station. The facility has been refurbished with modern policing equipment and is ready for use. We've installed a digital surveillance system with over 400 CCTV cameras and is currently being manned by a detachment from the Criminal Investigations Department of the Ghana Police. I encourage the leadership of Parliament to liaise with the security agencies to fashion out appropriate arrangements to ensure the safety of members of this august House. Mr. Speaker, with a challenge to the constitutionality of the constitutional review procedure dismissed by the Supreme Court, we will work to ensure that the constitutional review process is brought back on track and that the Constitution Review Implementation Committee is able to proceed with its mandate. With the commissioning of both Job 600 and the courts complex, we can all rest assured that all the three arms of government have now been properly accommodated to carry out our work. But let us always remember that it is said that to whom much is given, much is expected. Our people expect much from us. My understanding also is that this year we will design and start construction of a new block to cater for the extra 23 members of Parliament who cannot be accommodated in the Tower Block complex. Mr. Speaker, the late President John Evans Atta Mills is our first and only president to have died in office. It is important that fitting memorials are established in his honor. The Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration has established the John Evans Atta Mills Center for Law and Governance. This year, the John Evans Atta Mills Memorial Library of the University of Cape Coast will also become operational. Government will support these two institutions to ensure that the vision and ideals of this great academic are not lost. Mr. Speaker, this year is an election year, and all of us must give the utmost support to the Electoral Commission to carry out its work. Mr. Speaker, our Electoral Commission has gained commendation all over the world for the work that for the good work that it has done over the years since the promulgation of the 1992 Constitution. Mr. Speaker, we've held 6 successful elections, and I have absolutely no doubt that our Electoral Commission will rise to the occasion and deliver a 7th successful election come November this year. Mr. Speaker, it is important for all of us to support the Commission to be able to put in place the processes that will make this election successful, and I call on all political parties to do exactly that. Mr. Speaker, I pledge as President to do everything in my power to work for a free, fair, and transparent election. And every support that can be given to Electoral Commission by government, we will give to ensure that they are able to carry out their mandate. Mr. Speaker, let the election be clean and devoid of insults. Mr. Speaker, we count. Mr. Speaker.
Order! Order! Order!
I want to, on behalf of all Ghanaians, salute the media for the good work they've been doing in communicating our voices to the electorate. I believe that as they have done in the last 6 elections, this year again, they will be a useful conduit for sending the messages of the political parties to the electorate. I wish to ask the media to be circumspect in terms of language, in terms of avoiding insults. Let us tell the Ghanaian people what we intend to do for them and let them make their choice. Mr. Speaker, having decentralized our governance system to this point, where functionaries and funds have been deployed to the metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies, government and the citizenry expect the local authorities to reciprocate by being more responsive to the needs of their communities. We expect MMDAs to work towards financial independence through innovation and application of efficiency measures. We expect them to go beyond the naming of streets, which they have done creditably well, to numbering the houses and developing a comprehensive database for policy planning and emergency response. The street naming policy has largely been implemented. We need to speed up the next phase of the numbering of all houses and creating a GIS map of all our communities. District assemblies should be able to create a database of all this information for the purposes of effective revenue mobilization and the provision of social services. Mr. Speaker, this year will be the 2nd year of implementation of a 5-year phase 2 of the Decentralization Policy Framework and National Decentralization Action Plan, that is 2015 to 2019. We remain committed to implementing the activities agreed upon under this program. Bills to decentralize the following departments by devolution and converting them into departments of the district assemblies have been finalized and will be placed before Parliament in the first quarter of 2016. 1 is the Registry of Births and Deaths, 2 is the Ghana Library Board, 3 is the National Youth Authority, 4 the National Sports Authority, the Department of Cooperatives, the Department of Town and Country Planning, the Ghana Education Service, and the Ghana Health Service. Mr. Speaker, the Consolidated Decentralized Local Governance Bill will also be laid before Parliament in the course of this year. And a Local Government Borrowing Bill will also be laid before Parliament, which will enable MMDAs to borrow for infrastructure projects and municipal services without incurring liability for government. Mr. Speaker, over the past few years, we've embarked on a progressive retooling of our security agencies. We provided them with vehicles, accommodation, logistics, and resources that enable them to fulfill their constitutional mandate. Mr. Speaker, we will continue to place priority on the needs of our security services in order to place them in a favorable position to carry out their duty of confronting and defeating crime, including cross-border crime, narcotics, arms trafficking, and terrorism. Lately, the police service have earned the admiration of the nation for the dexterity with which they tracked down and arrested Mr. Arthur Simpson Kent, who fled from Britain to Ghana after allegedly committing murder. Also, the speed with which the suspect in the J.B. Danquah Edu murder case was nabbed has also earned the service plaudits. We hope that the police service will deepen this investigation to unravel all the unanswered questions surrounding this case. In the meantime, I'll urge the public to desist from making wild, unsubstantiated allegations in respect of this case. Mr. Speaker, Ghana continues to participate in peacekeeping efforts in West Africa and the sub-region and on the African continent, as well as other parts of the world, as a contribution to ensuring peaceful resolution to disputes and the elimination of threats to international peace and security posed by conflict. Mr. Speaker, we have deployed infantry battalions to Liberia and Côte d'Ivoire and aviation units in Mali and Côte d'Ivoire. An engineering company has been deployed in Mali, and we're participating in U.S. peacekeeping in DR Congo, South Sudan, and Lebanon. The police deployed 170 personnel from the formed police unit to South Sudan in August 2015 due to the high performance of the contingent. The UN has requested for an additional 100 police personnel from this unit who are to be deployed in the first week of March 2016. Mr. Speaker, as I said, 2016 is an election year, and we are confident that all our security agencies will join hands once again to secure the peace and stability of our nation before, during, and after the November 7 general election. Mr. Speaker, my understanding is that the Minister of Foreign Affairs presented a comprehensive statement on Gitmo to this House. And you exhausted yourself questioning her on all aspects of the matter. And so I don't want to repeat what she said. Mr. Speaker, the world we live in today is a world that has become more integrated and a connected place. And that creates both challenges and opportunities for our dear nation. And it is important, as we seek to build stronger relations with our friends and allies, that we take this into consideration. We must also, as a leading nation on the west coast of our continent, live up to our principles and our ideals that have informed our foreign policy since our independence and continues to do so. Because those ideals are as relevant today as they were at our time of independence. Our first president charged that Africa should unite because in unity lies strength. We are far from that, but there are steps we can take as a country that can bring Africa closer to us and create economic opportunities as we do so for our citizens. Earlier this year, at the Executive Council meeting of the African Union, it was decided that AU member states should review their internal and external security situations with a view to putting in place the mechanisms that would allow for the issuance of visas on arrival for citizens of AU member states with the option to stay in the country for up to 30 days. Mr. Speaker, we believe creating the opportunity for the mobility of our people on the continent is a key to unlocking our economic potential. Today, within some of our regional organizations, and in our case, the ECOWAS, and in a number of countries such as Kenya, Seychelles, Mauritius, Rwanda, it is possible to travel without having to obtain a visa before visiting another member state. But by and large, traveling across our continent is a hassle. Indeed, for those African businessmen and women trying to do business on our continent, it's actually easier for them to operate within the Schengen area of the European Union than it is for them to travel around our own continent. Africa has a growing and dynamic middle class that is both entrepreneurial, forward-looking, and has purchasing power. And we intend to make it easier for them to enter our country. Mr. Speaker, with effect from July this year, we will be allowing citizens of AU member states to enter into our country and obtain visas on arrival with the option to stay for up to 30 days and experience what our country has to offer. This measure with time would stimulate air travel, trade, investment, and tourism. We've managed movement within and out of our country with the citizens of other ECOWAS member states. So we have the capacity to manage this new regime we're introducing. We also know that there may be persons from our continent who we may not want to admit into our country, and hence the provision for obtaining the visa on arrival and not visa-free entry. This will enable the Ghana Immigration Service to make a determination as to whether to allow them entry or not into our country. Mr. Speaker, this makes us take up the needed leadership of our founders' dream of bringing the citizens of the African continent closer together. Mr. Speaker, this year we'll also commence negotiations for the creation of a continental free trade area by 2017, and we'll be actively participating in the negotiations with a view to creating the economic basis for a more united and integrated continent. The target we set ourselves as a continent here in Accra in November 2011 during the African Trade Ministers meeting is an ambitious one, but it's certainly not beyond our capability, and will continue to play a leading role towards realizing our goal of promoting an integration of the states and people of this great continent of Africa. Last year, just before the UN General Assembly, the world saw the launch of the Sustainable Development Goals. The goals set an ambitious agenda for the development of all the countries of the world, so that in another 15 years, we will collectively work together to create the world that we want to see. We also, at the COP21 summit in Paris, came to a historic agreement on reducing carbon emissions and fighting climate change. Mr. Speaker, the two are not mutually exclusive, and we look forward to incorporating the elements of these two important multilateral and global policy initiatives into our national planning and program implementation. Mr. Speaker, I was honored to be appointed the co-chair of the UN Secretary General's SDG Advocates Group. Mr. Speaker, but this is not just an honor for me, it's an honor for our country, Ghana. It is a recognition of our leadership in peacekeeping. It is a recognition of our leadership in managing crises such as the Ebola outbreak that hit our region 2 years ago. It is a recognition of our leadership on our continent in promoting democracy and good governance, and our leadership in positively transforming the lives of our people over the period of implementation of the Millennium Development Goals. It is important that we draw our continent's attention to the need to incorporate the SDGs into our national development plans as we think and plan for the future. We want to create for the next generation. I'll be working with other members of the advocacy group and roping in other advocates from our continent with an emphasis on bringing on board young people and women so that the SDGs become a part of our discourse and engage our collective attention as we plan towards the development of the continent. Mr. Speaker, we'll also begin the implementation of our linguistic pact with the Francophonie, and through this process encourage our citizens at all levels to become bilingual in French as well as in English. And Mr. Speaker, I encourage the leadership of Parliament to introduce French courses for our members of Parliament so that we set the example. Mr. Speaker, when we consider that with our immediate neighbors, our combined populations create a market of about 33 million people, we already engage in trade and social interactions with each other, both formally and informally, but it is time for us to make an extra effort to be able to engage them and the other Francophone states within our ECOWAS region more effectively to promote the trade in goods and services, tourism and investments within our region. Mr. Speaker, this year we'll continue to play an active role within our ECOWAS region on the continent, within the Commonwealth and under the leadership of our new Commonwealth Secretary General Patricia Scotland, and within the United Nations and its various agencies, especially the Human Rights Council and UNESCO, where we are members of the Executive Board and play an active leadership role in creating the world that we want. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I began this address with the admission that politicians are perceived to talk plenty. As I have no doubt proving here today that we talk plenty, but that our words sometimes fail us because they do not always accurately reveal the human faces that inform our ideas and benefit from the programs and policies that we enact. When I was elected president, I stated that my mission during my term in office would be to transform this country. It is certainly an admirable goal, but even to my own ears, it sounded like a huge and lofty undertaking. And I suppose that if one looks at it as a single undertaking, it does seem intimidating, perhaps even impossible. Mr. Speaker, but transformation by its very nature is an elusive process. It is a process by which change takes place in graduation in small and almost imperceptible movements and occurrences. Sometimes, all that is noticeable is the before and the after, but not the process in between. Mr. Speaker, we are always in motion, even when we believe ourselves to be standing still. The earth is always spinning on its axis, even though we feel we are standing still. I like to think of our transformation agenda in the same way. Change is happening. Change is taking place. Mr. Speaker, change I don't think you heard me. I don't think you heard me. I said change is happening.
Order. Order.
Even as I speak, change is happening. It is taking place. Ghana is being transformed. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, honorable members. Thank you. Thank you, members. Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, let's have order.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. Even as we think we are standing still, change is happening. It is taking place. And Ghana, our dear country, is being transformed. I realize that just saying so does not make it so. But I know too that seeing it is always believing. And so as you sit in this gallery, as you sit in this chamber and you look around the gallery, I would like you to ask my invited guests to please stand. Matapokuya, Regina Haku, Umar Muhammad Mukhtar, Naomi Apia Kurang, Mohamed Hassan, Gertrude Yabua, David Amin Ayire, Mohamed Awabu, Jijo Kwamwa, Apim Shulemati, Tobinko, Zenabu Sumaila, James Apia Bekon, Emmanuel Abuaji, Shirazi Saku, Awendini Apoyanga. These are evidence-based testimonies of the transformation taking place in this country. Mr. Speaker, these people standing, this is Ghana. This is every tribe. There is every tribe and every ethnicity among these people. It is every religious affiliation, Muslim and Christian. It is every political persuasion, NPP, NDC, CPP, PPP. Mr. Speaker, it is young and old. It is various income levels, poor and rich. This is what we call the process of transformation. Mr. Speaker, we are changing lives one individual at a time. It is when you don't see people like this that you don't realize that change is happening and you think change is coming. Change is happening, and it is happening today in people's lives, in the lives of these people here in the gallery. Mr. Speaker, we are heeding the words of our founding father, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, and we are looking neither east nor west, but we're looking forward into the future that we want for our beloved country. And it is instructive that yesterday marked 50 years since the overthrow of Nkrumah. And indeed, a lot of the current happenings in our country can have a throwback to what happened in those last days of President Nkrumah. Despite the huge monumental developments, despite the progress the country was making, transformation and change in the lives of people sometimes is difficult for people to see. Lives are changing, Ghana is transforming. I thank you for your kind attention. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the kind opportunity.